Behind dank walls, a nightmare world of horror as a rotting corpse crawls from the earth to terrify the living. And butchery awaits. Beware of barren blood.
The eyes, Leon. What color are the eyes?
Changeable, my lady, but by candlelight.
Barren blood. He earned his name through torture.
Yes, y'all, it's going down right now. Episode 216 of the 22 Shots and Moods and Horror podcast is coming at you live and direct. And we got the grumpy old man Dave, also known as Mr. Parker, in the house tonight. And the 22 Shots Collective would like to welcome back to the show for the very first time a man that needs little introduction. I've been a fan of this man's work for many, many years. The creator of the Hornies, the one and only horror film award show. An artist and a lead singer of multiple metal bands, a fellow collector of physical media, both vinyl and movies, a horror film encyclopedia, an actor, writer, and producer, and craft beer enthusiast, the Headbanger Tom, also known as Horrorsball. What's going on, guys?
Hello.
Not much.
Moods, I'm going to have you do my funeral.
But you won't be able to hear it.
It was pretty amazing. It doesn't matter. Everyone else is going to see what a great life I led.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you, sir.
Yeah, that was me throwing the flowers because you got to give respect where it's due.
I appreciate it. It's a pleasure being here with you two guys. Love you both.
Yeah, it's
Thanks.
honestly, man, this is kind of like a dream show for myself because we've got like two YouTube legends here and then myself. So this is like really cool, man, because I was fans of you guys, right? And inspirations for me even doing YouTube and things like that. So. But
that's awesome. Thank you for having me, and I feel the same towards you guys, of course. And what better way than on Italian Horror Month?
More specifically, Mario Bava.
Yes, who happens to be my favorite filmmaker. So
right. This is actually Mario Bava Volume 2. We did a Mario Bava show, I think, years. This is Italian Horror Month Volume 7. I think we did Mario Bava, I want to say year 1 or year 2 or something like that. So if you're wondering why the films are what they are tonight, we had actually done... what did we do? Black Sunday, Blood and Black Lace, and I believe
Bay of Blood.
Bay of Blood. Yeah, so those are the three that were done before. So
I didn't know that you had told me the three films tonight, and you told me Dave picked them, but I didn't know like if it was deliberate or what. But I think they're just coincidentally a good like paradigm to his catalog in that I think they're three more gothic films, but they're actually three very different ones though. So I thought it was kind of cool when you told me the three films.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the way we pick Italian Horror Month is that we each pick a director and then we pick their specific films, and sometimes we'll let the group pick the other one and stuff. But this year we ended up picking all 4 weeks, and whoever was their director, we picked their specific films. And Dave went a little bit selfish this year because he hadn't seen any of these three movies, which really did shock myself. I couldn't believe
shocked me.
Yeah, when he told me I hadn't seen The Whip and the Body, I was like, I get it, man. Maybe I haven't seen Bury in Blood or Lisa and the Devil. But The Whip and the Body, though, I was shocked by that.
Yeah, that one's totally up my alley too. I love Christopher Lee. It's right at the time frame. I don't know why I hadn't seen it. Like, there's a lot of Bava I neglected more than I should have. I watched like all Fulci and all Argento, and I watched a lot of cheapy movies. Like, that was my thing in Italian movies, and I've seen all the other Bava horror movies, except you guys are gonna get even crazier when you tell you the one I haven't seen. Guess which one I haven't seen besides these? These are the last three, and then one more. Which one you think that I didn't watch yet?
Bay of Blood?
No. Shock?
No, I've seen Shock for some fucking reason. Shock was actually the first one I ever saw by him, because I saw that I didn't even know who Mario Bava was when I saw that movie.
$5 for an August Moon?
No, I watched that for 1970.
The Girl Who Knew Too Much?
Yep.
AKA The Evil Eye. It seems like most
John Saxon.
Yeah, it seems like most times you see that movie listed anywhere, it's always under the American title of Evil Eye, which is the IP re-edited version.
Yeah,
I actually haven't watched that version in a long time. I just rewatched this one the other night actually, and it's always considered to be like the start of the giallo. Really, this one's a little bit different, but you can see where the elements came from with the later giallos and stuff. And it's a good movie, man. John Saxon, young. He's young and built, and it's
such a good looking.
He's
guy.
always built. He's always built. Did you guys ever see the John Saxon movie War Hunt? from like, I think it's got to be the 60s. It's like a war film. He's nuts in it, and somebody else is in that really young. Tom Skerritt. It's a good movie. He's pretty intense in it.
Oh, the poor man's Burt Reynolds.
No, the poor man's Sam Elliott.
Or Sam Elliott.
What's the difference?
I always thought I like Tom Skerritt, but I always call him the poor man's.
I like all those guys.
Burt Reynolds,
mustache power.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw Tom Selleck in the mix, you got four mustachios.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. Actually, I was just talking about Tom Selleck the other day because I had watched Terminal Island, and I realized it was Tom Selleck in there, but he didn't have a mustache, right? It was like a really early role for him. I was like, holy shit,
Tom
man.
Selleck then.
Tom Selleck without a mustache is just weird to me. It's strange.
Yeah. It's like Bert. He's in The Longest Yard and Deliverance without his mustache. You're like, get the fuck out of here. Go get your mustache.
Well, the whole thing is weird because it's kind of like an exploitation film a little bit. It's kind of like, have you ever seen it before, Tom? Terminal Island? Yeah, it's pretty much like Lord of the Flies with adults. The storyline is where they put these hardened criminals onto this island that they can't get off of, and of course they separate into two different groups, and a lot of people die, and there's a lot of tits and stuff.
So no escape?
Yeah, it's pretty much it. But then Tom Selleck is in this film without a mustache, and it's really bizarre to see. So
I'm intrigued.
Was that a Stephanie Rothman movie?
I have no idea.
She did a few. I think it is. She was always on podcasts, and she did like a handful. She did that in Velvet Vampire.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. Right.
I think it is her.
Right. Yeah, actually, Vinegar Syndrome put out oddly enough, put out a 4K of this movie. Like, that's the thing with Vinegar Syndrome. They're the very bizarre label because they're just like, yeah, we need a 4K of Ticks and Terminal Island. It's like, okay, that's what the world needs.
They just do it. But they make their own scam. They're like, we got a 4K. Will this sell? They're like, Ticks sold, man. Ticks on 4K it's like so fucking weird. It just like justifies all my like stupidity as a kid when people are like, nobody likes them crappy horror movies. And I'm like, we'll see. We'll see what's on 4K.
They're at the point now, though. Vinegar Syndrome's at the point where, with their reputation, and deservedly so, though, that they can put anything out.
Yeah.
And put in a nice slipcover, and people will be all over it.
Yeah, and for me, man, I mean, the slipcover game is one aspect of collecting. I mean, people go absolutely ape shit crazy over slipcovers and stuff. Yeah, Vinegar Syndrome, I think, does some of the better slipcovers out there and stuff. But for me, it's really about the film's transfers. Like, they polish up some turds that are amazing. Like,
absolutely,
like some of the movies that they release, yes, the quality of the film not really the greatest, but you watch it and you go, holy shit, like this company is on some special game right here. Like they're doing some insanely amazing transfers, and I don't even understand how they're doing them so well. Like you look at a movie like Terminal Island, I imagine back in the day if you watched it in the drive-in or whatever, it's probably looked like shit. It probably did, but it looks fucking beautiful. Like absolutely beautiful, and you're just like, oh man. I mean, same with Ticks. I haven't watched the 4K yet. I do have it, but I'm curious to see.
Just watched Ticks last night.
Oh, did you? How did Carlton look? Did he look?
It did pristine? Look. Oh, he looked fantastic.
I recently just rewatched.
Oh yeah, Seth Green's in it too. I always forget that. Right.
Yeah. Is there anybody else in that? With fucking Clint Howard's in it. I'm infested.
Man, I haven't watched in a while. I still have them all on Blu-ray. So yeah, I haven't
great
seen
effects. Such great.
Rance Howard's in it too. Rance is there too.
Yeah, early '90s goodness right there. That's awesome.
I recently rewatched Mosquito for '94, and I had not seen that movie since I was like fucking 15, and it was the blast. Like the first 10 minutes, I was like, I don't remember this being this fucking stupid, and then like 20 minutes, I was like, I'm in. This feels like Sam Raimi boys did it, and then like I start watching special features, and I see Josh Becker pop in. I'm like, yeah, the Sam Raimi kind of guys did do it, and I knew it was Michigan with all the Detroit shit.
I actually have
a lot of fun.
Mosquito sitting on my coffee table, ready to watch. I haven't even really started into '94. I've been Italian month. I always like to just sit there and watch Italian films all month. All right, so I think after probably December, I'll probably get into the '94 game. I'm not like overly that excited because I'm probably not going to watch Rape Man Part 1 to 5 like you have.
You got to watch 2 to 4 if you want to get up, dude. I'm telling you. They were making fun of me because I turned off Fear Street 94 because I couldn't take it. But then I watched 4 Rape Man movies.
Wait, let me get a pen, Dave. What are the better rape films? I need to write this down.
They're all the same movie. Rape Man 1 through 4 so far are pretty much the same movie, except that Rape Man, he uncovers corruption in different places. The first is politicians, of course. Like the second is doctors and nurses and stuff, and then the third is school teachers and police officers, and then the fourth is a religious cult, which is really interesting because in 1994 Shirikyo was going around in Japan and stuff like that. A lot of the movies reflect that, like Angel Dust and shit, which is real cool actually. But those Rape Man movies were made in like 5 minutes, so they're like headline, and they're touching the important issues like we have nowadays: police corruption and religious cults.
So you mean to tell me that these Rape Man movies are full of commentary?
Yeah, but they're
Apparently.
also comedies and justice through rape moods. It's complicated.
It does sound very complicated.
It's not complicated. It's complete horseshit. It's exploitation. But
Right.
I'm a piece of shit. Like I'm just like shaking my head and laughing because I'm just like I can't believe this exists. That's enough for me sometimes that it exists and it shouldn't.
I don't know.
Just watch one of them.
I mean, I might as well. I mean, there's not like there's an over the top abundance of films from '94 that I probably need to be checking out because when we pulled '94, I was like, well, that's kind of anticlimactic. What my number one is because everybody knows my love for Cemetery Man. I talk about it all the time, so I'm like, that's ridiculous. But
Underground Banker, you should watch if you want a weird Hong Kong movie with Anthony Wong from '94. That's one that I thought was pretty great. But there's a lot of SOV movies from '94.
Yeah, there is.
I grew up watching these, and I'm like, my list of top 10 is going to have more than one SOV movie on it. What the fuck?
You know what's actually kind of interesting? The sister label, the Vinegar Syndrome, has been putting out on their website. Is it Saturn's Core? The one is that the label? Yeah. So it's all the SOV films. There's like 3 or 4 from '94 that they've already released out of like 6 titles.
3 out of the 4 movies they put out, or 5 titles, are from '94.
I know.
Shattered Dead, Psycho Sisters, and then there's this Sorority House. And those two, the Psycho Sisters and Sorority House, are from that dude Gary, or what was that weird company, Wave Productions?
Right.
They're from those, so they're gonna be those. Yeah, like zombie mercenaries on Cannibal Island, which is awful.
Yeah, I was excited that they put out Psycho Sisters because I've always wanted to check it out, man. I actually have the book, The Analog Nightmares, which is like the shot on video horror films of like whatever 82 to 95 or 96, whatever it is. And I remember reading about it, and I'm just like, oh man, I got to check this out because I think it's literally about girls chopping off dudes' penises, isn't it?
Yeah, they do chop off dicks, I think.
Yeah.
I gotta watch it too.
It's like penis mutilation. I'm like, well,
top 10.
I'm like, that sounds interesting enough. Done shot on video style.
Is Tina Krause in that one? She is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she could kill me anytime.
Well, by the time we do the
score,
right. By the time we do the '94 show, who knows, man? That label might have put out like every shot on video film from '94, so we might get lucky with these great transfers.
They need to put out Savage Harvest from SRS. That's another '94 one,
and that's actually a good movie.
So is that and Shattered Dead are back, both 2 of the best SOV movies ever made, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But, sorry, Tom.
And then you got AGFA who just put out Boarding House, which is like, okay, if you're ever going to watch Boarding House, never watch the full director's cut that's like 2.5 hours long. It might be the worst thing you ever lay your eyes on. It's so painful.
Why is it 2.5 hours long? I was mad when I saw the Army of the Dead was 2.5 hours long. I was really pissed off. Now can you imagine when I do a Boarding House? I had to watch 2.5 hour Boarding House.
I've actually never seen Boarding House before.
Me either. But
well, if you're ever going to watch it, watch the shorter version, which is the better version of it because it cuts out all the long, boring nonsense shit that you don't need to see. The director's cut has that syndrome. It has that indie director's syndrome where, you know, I shot all this footage. I'm going to fucking use it in my film type deal, right? And
like Wizard of Gore?
Yeah, exactly. Well, then it turns out to be 2.5 hours long, and you're like, this is ridiculous, man. Like, you're forgetting things that are happening from, you know, past in the film because it's so long and boring. But yeah, watch the re-edited version that's shorter. It's actually not a bad movie. I don't mind Boarding House. It's okay. I mean, it's considered to be one of the very, very first ones, so it's interesting enough for that.
And Sledgehammer, right?
Yeah, and Sledgehammer. Yeah, and Sledgehammer is a great example of another shot on video film that does the same thing. It has like long slow-mo shots of like
to pad the runtime.
These really bad fucking transitions, and it's got like a 25-minute food fight, and you're just like, okay, really?
Moods. It's called exposition. Come on.
Ready? Exactly.
Exposition dump. Now we know the main character's allergic to peanuts. It's going to play at the very ending. What the fuck was that one? You guys are good. I can't even remember. I watched some of these like cheesy exploitation movies. Dark Force put it out, and there literally was like a 10-minute food fight in it. I was just like, what the fuck is this? And I actually started gagging because there's like mustard falling on people's fucking shirt. I'm like, I hate that shit. I hate ketchup and mustard getting on people's shirt and their skin. It's grosser than watching somebody get decapitated.
It's like that scene in that slasher, The Prey, which I love.
Yeah,
which Arrow put out, and there's just that scene of them all talking in the wood or campfire.
Yeah,
and it's all looping like dialogue from like distant and it just keeps looping, and you don't even hear what they're saying. It goes on for like 7 minutes.
It's all one shot too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one shot. And
yeah. The ending of The Prey is great though. Like the whole mountain climbing shit. It makes it worth watching, you know.
Yeah, I feel like Tom has been a major influence on Arrow releasing things, because I know for years and years and years you always championed The Prey. You're like, we need a fucking good Blu-ray release of that shit, and all of a sudden they announced The Prey, and then it came out and stuff, and then the same thing happened with Shock. I know that
I've been carrying that flag for a while.
Yeah, man, and like it always kind of blew my mind too that Shock never had more than just the DVD releases, because if you look at Mario Bava's entire collection, and we're talking beyond the horror films, like his Sandals and Swords, and all his movies pretty much have good releases, either from Arrow or Kino or something like that. Why was Shock like the last one to go? Because Anchor Bay.
I assume some type of legal. That's usually how it is. Some type of
Like I always thought that this is of course coming. I guess it's Region 1 and 2. Is Shock being released? It's being released in both regions, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so they obviously acquired the rights, because the last right holder was, which was Blue Underground, right? So, I just always thought it was strange, some of the films that they've had the rights to that they never ended up releasing and stuff, but I guess it kind of works out. Like, it works out in the long run anyways.
So then it gets tricky too with rights, because not only do you need the rights, but then you need the rights to be able to have access to restore the original print. So that gets into all other legal issues.
Yeah.
So,
Those Italian companies sometimes want to scan in house and then send it to you. They don't want to let the companies take and scan. But in Arrow is right kind of closer to Italy than America, so they probably have a closer in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know. Just assuming. They're probably like, even if they listen, it's like, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, but it's nice to see that one getting its flowers. So I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic release. Maybe we'll have to do one of those kind of offbeat weird shows where it's like Beyond the Door trilogy, where the movies don't even make, they're just in sequel and name only.
Yep.
And the worst one is probably the actual Beyond the Door, because the train one's awesome.
It's just a blatant Exorcist ripoff. I mean, it's just capitalizing. Yeah. It's fun though, man. You know what makes me laugh?
Amok Train's fantastic.
Amok Train is.
Yeah, Amok Train's great.
I've championed that shit since Shriek Show put out that DVD years ago. Man, that movie is so much damn fun. But
fucking Bo Sevzin.
Yep. What I love
another
about
one filmed in Europe too, so it's got the nice locations and
it's got the funniest miniature shots in it ever. Like it just kills me with the miniatures. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows how much I love miniatures and dummy deaths. Dummy deaths are like my favorite thing in movies, I swear. But Beyond the Door, man, one of the funniest things about that movie is the filthy kids' mouths. Like the fact that they have that dubbed in there like that is just it makes me laugh, because they're just cursing up a storm. It makes me laugh every time I watch
kids
that movie.
Cussing at adults is always funny in movies.
Absolutely.
One of the best gags in a beer league with Artie Lang is when that kid starts cussing at him. He like throws his bat at him. He's like, "Thanks for the bat, asshole."
Right. Oh man. All right. So yes, man. This is episode 216. 216. That sounds crazy. I'm doing the show for a long time. Mario Bava, Volume 2. We listed off the titles that we're going to be reviewing tonight. The Whip and the Body from 63, Baron Blood from 72, and Lisa and the Devil from 73. And we're doing the Lisa and the Devil cut. We're not doing the other re-edited version, which is House of Exorcism, I believe is what it's called. Have you got, well, obviously, Dave, you haven't seen that, but Tom, have you watched that cut recently?
Not recently, no.
No, I haven't. I didn't want to watch it side by side with this, just because we weren't really doing that cut too, so I was like,
the cut bothers me, so I don't like it.
It does, man.
I remember it's really bad then.
Well, it's because I think the producers at the time, they wanted to capitalize, of course, on the Exorcist fame, right? So they put in this whole kind of subplot in with that. And it's been a while since I've seen it, but I just remember being like, what the hell? The hell did they do here?
It's no good.
Yeah.
Watching Lisa and the Devil, I can't understand how they would shoot new scenes and add an Exorcist subplot in that movie, because it just doesn't match and there's no room for it.
Exactly.
It is strange, right? It is strange.
Doesn't make any sense.
You're going to have to go back.
I can't even see how it would work.
You should just watch that cut for shits and giggles after the show, man.
Yeah, it is worth seeing for sure.
Yeah.
Just for the reason you just said.
Especially
I almost squeezed it in, but I just didn't have time.
Yeah, especially that you just watched Lisa and Devil, so it's fresh. So go and watch it. You'd be like, what the hell? It's like literally my reaction. So
who would do sick shit like this?
It's all about that Fetty, you know? producers, man, got to capitalize. Okay, so since we do have the time to do this, one thing that we do on the show when we have a brand new guest on is I always call it quick little 5 questions with the guest, insert name, which is Horrorsball Tom, of course. But the 5 questions is never short. It always just leads to tangents, which is, something that we do on the show here, 22 Shots of Tangent and Horror.
No, bullshit.
Yeah. So we're going to get into this fight. And these aren't like brain busting questions. It's just questions that everyone can kind of like, relate to, and just, they're easy answers. Just put it that way, Tom. And
we'll see about that.
Yeah. I mean,
I got a couple.
I always think that they're easy questions. And then I'll ask the first question. Everyone's like, I have no idea. And I'm like, seriously? No idea? All right.
It's like, do you like Mountain Dew? Fuck me. How do I answer something like that?
Now, these are pretty easy. Actually, Tom's already even answered one of them, which I knew the answer, but for the people at home, they might not have known that answer. But anyways, so we'll get into question 1 here, which is it's a simple question, might not be a simple answer. I don't know. But your favorite horror film of all time?
This is an easy one. It's kind of, I mean, you guys know it kind of changes over the years, but this one probably stayed the same for as long as I can remember. Definitely Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
choice.
The reason why I like to answer or to ask these questions to people, because I'm always, as a horror film fan and like a fan of other people that are fans of the same genre films as me, I'm always like curious on what people's likes and dislikes are. I'm not here to argue, because what you can't argue what someone likes or it is what it is, right? You like what you like, but that answer right there is pretty common. I always feel like when people ask me what my favorite horror film is, and I say Dawn of the Dead, I'm like, it just sounds almost cliched now to say that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they're cliches because they're good.
But that's the thing, and but I love when people are like, my favorite horror film is like Night of the Creeps. I'm like, seriously? Cool. I always wait for those type of answers. It's always kind of.
Yeah, Night of the Creeps is worthy, though, I think.
Right. But just something different, something offbeat. But,
I guess some people who know me kind of expect probably like an Italian film, because I'm such an Italian fan. But yeah, Texas, I mean, it's just, to me, it's one of those, like, in my opinion, just a perfect film.
Right.
It's always just stayed that way.
Yeah.
I always said Night and Texas were the best American independent films ever made, but that's just what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Night of the Living Dead and Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, I kind of figured that was the answer. I knew that. I wasn't sure if it was still going to be.
Yeah, for sure.
But
our tastes evolve, obviously. But yeah, that's
the thing. But with me, Dawn of the Dead has been my favorite film since I can even remember. Like, but you get the odd person nowadays. They're like, oh yeah, so you're a horror film fan. Like, what's your favorite horror movie? And I'm like, Dawn of the Dead. And they're like, and then this is where it gets me. They're like, original or remake?
Someone has actually said that to you?
I've been asked that a couple times, and I'm just staring at them going, you didn't just ask me that, did you? And like, I don't even know how to respond. I'm like, obviously the original slow zombies. It's like, seriously? I don't know, man. It's just like, I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but I'm like, Romero's film? Okay.
The one with social commentary?
Yeah.
Not the action film, please.
Right.
I mean, the Dawn of the Dead remake's fine. It's good. It's entertaining. Just after you watch it, there's nothing under the surface. I've
mentioned this so many times on this show, and I think a couple other people have mentioned it also, that they kind of agree with me, that when the Dawn of the Dead remake came out, it was interesting to see what Snyder did with the zombies. It was fast moving, it was fast paced and stuff, and you're like, oh, okay. You watch it and you kind of take it for what it is at that moment, and then you watch it later, and then you're like, okay. And then you watch it a couple more times, you're like, man, this movie gets worse every time I watch this, man. That movie has
it's a very good remake. It's not timeless like the original.
No, yeah, it's just one of those things. But yeah, we're not here to talk about the Dawn of the Dead remake.
I would explain that, like Dawn of the Dead original is like a 7-layer dessert. Like, you got the whipped cream on top. You go to the ice cream sandwiches. You get all the delicious heat down there. And do you guys remember Revenge of the Nerds when Ogre goes and gets the pies? And it's just whipped cream and it has the naked pitch underneath? That's Dawn of the Dead remake.
Right.
How is it, Ogre? All right. Sorry. Good or all right? All right. Just whipped cream. I mean, it tastes
fantastic analogy right there.
7-layer dessert. Interesting.
But it's just underneath, instead of the girlfriend, it's just fucking Ving Rhames in a bikini.
Right.
That's one of the quotes on the cover of the movie.
Yeah, Ving Rhames in a bikini.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
4 stars. I loved Ving Rhames.
Like New York Times.
New York Times. Richard Rubenstein. This is better than the original. Ving Rhames in a bikini.
I always used to think watching that remake too, I was like, man, that dude with the one arm, that's crazy effects on that. But it turns out the dude actually only had half an arm. I'm like, okay, right on.
They do that in the original too. In the extended cut, at least, the guy pulls up and he has the one arm under the truck. It's getting crushed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so question number 2. What's your favorite boutique releasing company?
Oh, that is a tough one. That's definitely something that would change a lot.
It is, man. It definitely. Okay, what was your favorite old school one, like back in the day? Like even I guess Blu-ray came around. There was quite a few companies, until Blu-ray kind of hit its mark in 6, 7, or whatever.
Back in the DVD days, if we're going that route, definitely. I mean, you had the two big ones, Anchor Bay, of course, and Blue Underground.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into the Italian stuff, which thanks to those two labels. So, that's nostalgia's sake. Right now, though, I don't know. I mean, I do that category in my awards. I'll do like the best label or whatever. But Severn they pull out some cool, like the fact that they released that this year, actually, that Christopher Lee, his like European,
the Eurocult collection,
Gothic films. Man, I love all those films, and it's so cool. And they actually just watched one last night, the Torture Chamber of Dr. Sadism, and it looked amazing. And so I don't know, Severn. I guess I would have to say Severn, but I mean, obviously, there's so many great ones. Arrow's always great, but I guess if I had to, give you one, it would be Severn right now, at least.
I feel like we're living in like physical media heaven right now. There's so many good companies out there. Like it's absolutely phenomenal and a little bit crazy, some of the films that we're getting on these releases, but just the amount of new boutique labels that are popping up. I mean, you go to Vinegar Syndrome, like all the sister labels that are on there and stuff, and what is there, like a dozen of them now? It's just absolutely insane. But it goes to prove that the stuff is still selling, and people still question me at times, like, why do you still buy movies when you could just stream them on Shudder and Netflix or even download them for free? And I'm like, because I'm a collector, you fucking idiot. That's the point of it. It's like
people still ask you
all the time, man, all the time.
People never ask me.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. People are like, oh, you're fucking wasting your money on this shit. I'm like, why? Like, I love it.
It's kind of like music, though, too, because I'm like a big vinyl guy, and you get the same thing, why don't you just, so it's kind of the same thing, but.
Because I fucking like it. That's the answer. Because none of your fucking business.
Well, I mean, people ask me. I had actually someone even ask me just not too long ago. Like, they're like, do they even still sell CDs and stuff? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, music collecting is kind of like movie collecting too. There's a lot of boutique labels out there and stuff, right? And that's where I get a lot of my stuff from. There's not too many major record labels that are releasing stuff anymore, but there is. But it's mostly like indie labels and stuff like that, and it's still very vibrant. You can still get stuff. It's a little bit harder to obtain now. Shipping prices are insane, but it's still out there. But
that even seeps into when we're talking about horror films. I mean, all the soundtracks, on vinyl. Not only is the film getting a Blu-ray with a slipcover, but then it's like, oh my god, it's on vinyl with a splatter. You know what I mean?
Right.
So those are kind of going hand in hand now.
Yeah, like even WNUF Halloween just got that nice Blu-ray release with a vinyl release. You're like, that's crazy, man.
That's insane.
The one I missed that I really was so choked about, I missed the soundtrack for The Barn. And that was one thing. I know Dave's not a fan of The Barn, and I
like The Barn.
I love The Barn. And
I just said I don't want to.
Well, Dave, you don't love it like you should.
I don't want to talk about it because it goes against my core belief in not talking about an indie actor's performance. I just will say he didn't have passion in his eyes.
Okay.
Are you talking about the lead?
Yeah, didn't have passion in his eyes.
But the one thing about that movie, though, that always stuck out to me was the music. The music's fantastic in the film.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then the soundtrack just like fucking sold out in 5 minutes. And I was like, holy shit, man. But that's cool. Like, I don't get mad at that because I'm like, well, these people are buying this shit. There's still a market for it. That's really cool. So, but
the effects are great too, man. I mean, the movie's got great atmosphere. I really liked it, but it's something about it. It's like The Void. It's like, oh, if they change one thing, I could give this like a 9 out of 10, but it's just this one thing's driving me crazy.
That's a movie where the lead guy drives me nuts.
None of the characters in The Void are worth a damn.
Yeah, the dialogue's awful, and
but everything else is fucking the best.
Oh, absolutely. The atmosphere and effects are incredible. Yeah, absolutely. The characters dialogue are just real clunky.
Their motivations don't make any sense.
Yeah, I think honestly that's what I can overlook too, because I don't think the acting is overlooked. But then again, when I'm watching indie films, I never really try to focus too much on acting, because you are watching an indie film, right? I mean, there is good and there's different levels of acting in these movies and stuff like that. It does. It ranges, of course, but that's why I don't weigh too heavily on the acting, because the majority of the time you are going to be getting amateur people and stuff.
Well,
and it is what it is.
I don't need that much. I just need something. And there was nothing for me to grab onto. I just couldn't grab onto it. But I was watching The Void and just being like, this should be my favorite movie of the year. Why isn't this my favorite movie of the year? And I came to the conclusion that I did not give a flying fuck about any of the characters.
Absolutely.
I love The Void. But
if I rewatch it, I guarantee it'll be high rated, but I just won't ever love it like I should.
You see, The Barn to me
exactly.
is one of those films that just has everything else going for it. Like, it has all the things I love in films, man. It's got good effects. It's got really kind of fun, all the characters that they created in that film are really cool, and it's got great atmosphere. And those are the things I love. Right, kills are pretty good effects. Like, there's a lot of things that I love that I can overlook. Things like, if you
just kidding.
No, I'm just saying if you make a point of putting all that stuff into your final result, it's like, it is what it is. Everyone has a different way of looking at films and stuff, but that thing was it was one dummy death away from being like a 10 for me, man. But I can't pass that. Like, that's one thing I love about especially early Italian films, man, is the music in these things, man. It's just so captivating. It's so gripping. It catches me every single time. Music is always a big part for films for me, and I'm sure it is for you also, right, Tom? I know music
absolutely
is
for sure.
Yeah, so Severin, like, do you have any like kind of underrated company? I know you've mentioned Kino as being a very underrated company because they release a ton of stuff, but
for sure
they put out a lot of good stuff though, man. And it's one of those companies that seems to be overshadowed by the Vinegar Syndromes and the Severins and the Arrows.
Yeah, they don't have the fancy box sets or the slip covers, but they do have good artwork, and the transfers look great. And they release like a lot of especially like this year, they're doing a lot of the great TV horror movies, you know, which is great to see. I also love the newer, they're quite new. I think they only have like 6 releases, but Cauldron Films, which I don't know if you guys are into that one, but yeah. So I mean, that's a real new one that I definitely will be one of those things that I'll just buy everything they put out just to support them.
Yeah, I have all the movies that Cauldron put out too. I actually watched American Rickshaw last night for the first time, that late Martino film. That movie is like straight American though. It's like such an American film.
I had never seen that until their release. So
yeah, it kind of shocked me because I've championed Martino for years and years, and I've even been on record saying like he's done. Not to take anything away from Argento's Giallos, but I'm just saying Martino seems to have a better catalog and more hits in the Giallo genre than Argento for myself. I think everything that Martino did in those early years is just phenomenal. Like, that guy is severely underrated as a director. Like, and he did
that topic. Sorry to cut you off, Moon.
Nope.
With me mentioning Severin, another example of why I love them so much is on that note, the subject of Gialli is like the box. I think I gave it like my favorite release of last year. That was the Umberto Lenzi and Carol Baker box set, which is so like ridiculously specific. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like as niche as you can get, like a Lenzi box set by itself. Okay, that's going to sell well, but no, I'm going to put out the films he did with Carol Baker, in this lavish set. And the amazing thing is, I don't know, those films are amazing. So I don't think Lenzi gets enough credit for his early Giallo output. I mean, they're so well written, and just wow, that box set is amazing.
Yeah, dude, I love all the movies that are in that set, man. Like Paranoia. What else is in there? Knife of Ice. So Sweet, So Perverse.
Quiet Place to Kill.
Quiet Place to Kill, which is alternate name is Paranoia, which is so confusing, right? Because there's already a movie in the box set called Paranoia, and then the alternate name for Quiet Place is Paranoia, and that used to baffle me. I know, like, when you're an Italian horror fan, this is something that you deal with, or Giallos, and the alternate names and stuff, but that's bizarre that there's like 2 in the same box set.
Like Lenzi, I mean, I put him up there with Martino as far as Giallo, and I love Martino too, but I mean, I like Spasmo, and man, he's...
Dude,
I always put
Spasmo's
the next tier of Italian directors after Mario Bava, Fulci, and Argento. I always went like Lenzi, Martino, and Deodato, like, is the next 3.
Mm-hmm. That's cool that you brought that up, because I've always wanted to do a show. I'd actually love to have you guys on. Is like, I think generally speaking, most people are gonna agree that like there's kind of like the Trinity, and it's Bava, Fulci, and Argento. That's like them up there,
right?
And obviously we'd rank them differently. But then I was gonna do who's 4 and 5, and that would be quite the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lenzi in general, though, man, he did a lot of great movies in all types of different genres and stuff. So he directed a lot of films, man.
Are we only including their horror output or everything?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you want to do it. I would probably just say more in the
speaking horror, but yeah,
probably horror, yeah. But somebody like Lamberto Bava, who didn't direct an abundance of amazing movies, but he directed a lot of really good ones. With like Macabre and Blade in the Dark and Demons 1 and 2, of course. And I think okay, I know Tom, you'll probably agree with me on this one, but Shriek Show years ago released the Bravado Giallo TV series, like all 4 films. Wouldn't that be an amazing box set for Severin to put out, which is consisting of Graveyard Disturbance, which I think is criminally underrated as one of the funnest TV movies.
I posted that this month on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, talk about a great box set. It would be those Bava's, TV movies. Yeah, I love Graveyard Disturbance.
Oh, did you really? Probably, yeah. I've thought about this for a long time because I find them all to be super fun. Dinner with a Vampire, Until Death, which I think is criminally underrated. And I can't remember the actress's name that stars in it, but she is so beautiful, man. Oh, she's so beautiful. I know she was in Heart of Atlantis too, the
lead actor
film.
Too in that movie.
And then, of course, The Ogre, which if you just call it The Ogre, not Demons 3,
or Ghost House 2.
Right. Those alternate names kind of bring down these movies a little bit.
There's like 7 Ghost House movies, but only the first one is actually a Ghost House movie.
Right.
Demons 3 was put by Shriek Show, and the other 3 were the Mia Communications, I believe.
Yeah, Maya Communications, that's right.
Another great Shriek Show right there back in the day.
That's right. Yeah, and which is, it's a travesty because Shriek Show always put out really good stuff. Maya put out a lot of good stuff too, but their transfers are always like muddy. So you go back and watch these
transfers.
Right, so... Yeah, the Mayas I always thought were worse than the Shriek Shows, but
then they put out a Girl from Cortina. I love that film.
Yeah, that's another one. Yep,
that'd be another one. Nice to see that one released. I love that one.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine all these are probably coming up on the rights being renewed by somebody like Vinegar Syndrome or Severin. It would definitely be the 2 that do it.
Yeah, a lot of those movies that Maya released and stuff, they seem to be like in purgatory. Like a lot of them haven't gotten released. So I'm thinking it was like kind of like when I was talking about Mondo Macabro, and a lot of their back catalog had never been reissued by anybody. I'm like, do they still own the rights to all these movies and are just not reissuing them? And it was like about a month later, Dave, and then they started reissuing some of their back catalog, and I'm like, well, apparently they still do own the rights to a lot of their movies because they're starting to come out on Blu-ray now. But I'm like, what took them so long? Because
Mondo is no one else even touched half the movies they released. And the new stuff they put out, nobody else has ever put those on HD.
Yeah.
So like
that's
for
what I'm
that,
saying.
Mondo is very, very unique,
very obscure too. And like, a lot of their back catalog, I'd love to get those Bollywood movies, if they still have the rights to them. There's so many of those other releases that have been out of print.
Another thing to consider too is like, you were always like, man, I wish they would put this out. But it's like, not only is it rights, but does the original transfer even exist? I always kind of like in my head, like think of some janitor who ends up in some like facility warehouse, and he picks up the reel and it says like Girl from Cortina on it.
Right.
And he's like, fuck it, throws it out. You know what I mean? Like it's like,
it is true. It's
like
it's
gone, right?
Keep that,
Right.
They tossed Alacarda's elements away, didn't they?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
That's why the blue never came. I think after the elements were used, I supposedly they just didn't. They tossed them or something. But Alacarda is literally like one of the best exploitation movies ever made, if not the best one. Yes, me.
Yeah. So that's a whole other element.
That is a good point, because usually when I think about things not being released, I think of rights issues and stuff like that. That's usually the first thing that I always think of. But then I never really thought of it, because if you're releasing 720 transfers and on DVD back in the day and stuff, maybe you don't have any good elements to actually put out an HD print, or maybe the elements just don't exist anymore either. So it's something that you definitely have to consider has happened.
Control of it's just like no one's going to give a shit about this movie, so
right? Because
it's taking up space in my closet or whatever.
Right? Because if you were sourcing these from like old shitty VHSs or whatever, and so you're not going to use those sources as HD or try to source them for an HD transfer and stuff. So it does make a lot of sense. There is a lot of different variables in releasing, but a lot of it has to do with rights, and a lot of it has to do with music rights too. I know there's been lots of movies over years that they've been delayed for forever and just haven't been released in general, just because music is a big motherfucker, man. Music rights are complicated. Really complicated. But when you're dealing with movies that have full blown soundtrack, you're dealing with 15 different artists kind of thing, or different companies and shit too.
Yep.
Really annoying.
Just kill them.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes these companies don't even own the rights. It's actually the artists that have these rights, and Tom, you know how it works too. And so music rights get so complicated. It's ridiculous.
You could just beat Broom on time, just put it out.
Right.
Yeah, but Severn put out fucking
just
Cruel Jaws. They got in trouble.
Just tie that shit.
Right. Do you have like an overrated company that's out there that's people talk about, and
you know what it's gonna be?
Actually, I mean, I don't know. I love Vinegar Syndrome, but I guess it's not just to point that, but we were kind of talking on before we started here, is kind of like how it's gotten to the point where you could literally put out a guy taking a shit.
Yeah.
And say it's some dug up film, and people will throw it on the secondary mark. That's more so not really a company that's overrated, but just how that's, as much as we're all very happy that physical media is just in this euphoric state right now, there's kind of that element which is a big turnoff of kind of just that collecting for the sake of collecting, and how that's kind of you limit it to 500, and I don't know, that whole side, I'm sure you guys agree, are just kind of a turnoff.
Yeah, the limited shit really does bug me a lot of the times. Because
is not too limited though, but some of those places are super fucking limited, like 100 copies, and before you're fucked. Like, what was that Japanese movie that got put out? Like Automon something. I went to go get that. It was gone. I was like, I'm never gonna see that again.
Well, and the three of us, we don't buy. We're collectors, but we're not buying this so that in 10 years we can throw it on eBay, and you know what I mean, to make a send our kids through college. It's not like that.
That's one of my biggest problems with limiting shit. I don't mind if it's the collectors buying the stuff up that are putting it in the collection for the sake of having it, and personally owning it. But the problem is with the limited stuff is that the resellers, they see that, they buy up as many copies as they can, and then it goes onto the eBay stores and stuff and selling for 3 or 4 times the amount. That's what bugs me about this.
Which is a big thing with the Mondo, the numbered thick red case one. That's the thing that bothers me. They're
taking it away from us legit collectors that would like to buy it at the retail price, and actually having their collections and appreciate it. But it's all about making money, and actually watch it, because that's the thing. These guys buy these things, they get them in the mail, and then they just put them up on the eBay. It's ridiculous. Drives me nuts.
And the one thing that kills me is I know I'm going to sound like a whiny baby because I don't have to buy it. But the Corman titles that Scream Factory gets, and then they put up as exclusives, even though they're supposed to own worldwide rights to the Corman stuff, it's why don't you just make these made on demand and just print them off when people order them and sell them for a reasonable price? Putting it up for $30, it's kind of go fuck yourself. I'm not going to buy that. I know it. I just can't afford it, and I don't want. It's just insulting. I'm not trying to be a dick, but it just seems like it's such a price gouge for me. I can't do it.
I've actually made a point of not ordering any of those Corman website only
Exclusive
releases.
The website, yeah, me either.
I don't own any of them. And the thing is, I think I have, with the exception of 2 of the DVD. Remember from the DVD Roger Corman collection, the Shout Factory put out. So I have the whole collection except for 2 of the exclusive ones, which I was like, fuck that, I'm not paying $50 for these things. But then when they started exclusively releasing these Blu-rays and shit, I was like, fuck that, man. I'm like, it's Roger Corman shit, dude. No way. I'm not paying those prices for that. It's ridiculous.
They also own the rights, right?
I know. And that's like wide news.
But Lake Placid on a special edition collector's edition. Why the fuck isn't Attack of the Crab People out there?
Right.
I've never seen Attack of the Crab People, but everybody knows that movie. It's a popular movie, but it's an exclusive.
I know.
The fuck?
I know that shit drove me nuts.
Is that part of the deal with Corman? I don't get it.
No, I don't think it. I think it's just them. They're just gouging, man. That's straight gouging shit right there.
There's got to be something with it, right? Like where they had they made a deal in court that they can only sell exclusive on their website. That might be it. It would make sense.
It's possible. You never know.
Well, I mean, we have seen that recently. Actually, Severin got involved with that. Was it Shock Combat, right? That the director only allowed them to put out so many, what was it, 1,000 copies or whatever? What did I say? Shock Combat? Yeah. Did I say that backwards?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
But yeah, it doesn't matter. But anyways, the point is that it wasn't really Severin's deal. It was more the director. From what I gather, he's like, oh, you guys can print up this many copies and sell them, and when they're done, that's it, kind of thing.
Might have been Troma too, because Troma owns the rights, and they'll sub-license to Vinegar Syndrome. Vinegar Syndrome will clean up their titles, all that kind of shit. And then you notice a lot later, like Night Beast was put out by Vinegar Syndrome, and then they turn now like The Children, and now Troma's putting those out. They're probably using their prints, their remasters, and that was the kind of the deal. Yeah, Troma did release that back in the day, but then Severin ended up dropping the Blu-ray. And I know there was something to do with the director, because I think I saw one of the shorts that the director was involved in, and Buddy G. Yeah, and then he was talking about like this can be exclusive to this, and once it's sold out, it's gone and stuff. And I never really believed that. I always thought that Severin would be like, fuck it, man, we'll widely release it after, right? Never happens. I was like, holy shit. That's one of my favorites too. I had to have it. Yeah, see, I missed it, man. I totally, I was like, well, fuck it, man. I'll wait for the other version. And I was like, it'll come out. In my heart, it's coming out, and it never did. Oh my god, shit! I do have the old Troma DVD, which is shitty. I think it's even cut too. I don't even know, but
there's like deals.
The new one too.
There's deals between companies too. Like I think like 88 Films made some type of deal with Vinegar Syndrome where they were like releasing, or it was either them or Severin. They were kind of releasing their titles after they released them. They had some kind of deal. Yeah. So if you collect Severin titles in Region 1 here, most likely they're going to be on the 88 Films Italian line. Yeah, so that happens a lot. All right, so next, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one, and I might have even answered already, but your favorite country origin for horror films? Yeah, absolutely Italian for sure. But although I do love Spanish horror, and I think they may be the most consistent region because they still put out like, and I did like a top 50, of movies I love last decade, and it's tons of great, amazing modern Spanish films as well. So Spain might be the most consistent as far as throughout the decades, but definitely my favorite would be Italian. Right. I agree though, man.
Did Shrew's Nest make that list?
What was that, Dave?
Did Shrew's Nest make that list?
Yes.
I figured it would. I mean, I thought you were a big fan of that movie.
Yes. Are you a fan of that one, Dave?
Oh yeah, it's pretty great.
Cool.
Yeah, Italy is my favorite country also. I'm a huge Italian fan. So, but yeah, Spanish films, man, right there. Yeah,
Spain is a lot like Italy, but you're right. They still make good movies. In Italy, they make an occasional good movie.
Yeah. They have put out
like we were talking about. It's a production company, so I think in Spain, apparently they still at least support to some extent genre films, where Italy just totally. So now, if you're making horror in Italy, you're an independent artist. Actually, just posted the film Across the River. Moods, I love that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an independent film. So the guy, the director Lorenzo Bianchini, he just, that's something you just got to make on your own. You got no backing or anything. So apparently, it's a little more the cinematic climate in Spain is obviously a little more supportive now than, as we know, Italy.
That's good to hear, actually. It's really good to hear. Yeah, it's a good one, man. I thought that movie was kind of overlooked a little bit. I thought it was really cool.
What was it called?
Across the River.
I've never seen that one.
Yeah.
I kind of call it like the greatest Italian horror film since Cemetery Man.
Well, looks like I'm going to have to buy that. Is it a...
Yeah, it's very... Yeah, well, there's a Region 2, I think a UK DVD of it. I don't think it ever got a Blu-ray, unfortunately.
What? Yeah, I've got the DVD? Region 2 DVD. Yeah, DVD. And it's kind of a shame, too, man, because, man, it could really benefit from being in that high-def quality, man.
Absolutely.
The cinematography is great, and it's, very atmospheric, so kind of a shame. But, yeah, it's Region 2. But it's cheap, though. Like, you can get it for, like, £5, I think.
Not delivered anymore from the UK. They're like, that's $37.
That's right, man. Oh, yeah, you order from Amazon UK, and it's like £20 for one Blu-ray. Oh,
yeah, it's a shame that it's become that. Because it used to be, like, COVID. It'd actually be, like, cheaper to get, like, 4 movies from Amazon UK because, like, the currency and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to get that question a lot. Like, why does your Arrow collection mostly Region B? And I'm like, because it's way cheaper to import them from the UK than it is to buy here. Right? So, which is crazy. Even with like free Amazon shipping through Prime and stuff, I still paying cheaper prices from the UK. It's ridiculous, man. This is not cool. You already answered who your favorite director is, which you said Mario Bava. Who's your favorite non-Italian director?
Ooh, that's a real good one. I don't even know if I know that. You said non-Italian or non-horror? I'm sorry.
Non-Italian.
Okay, non-Italian. I would say it would either be Sion Sono or Anders Zulawski, one of those two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. You've met a lot of directors. You've met Dario Argento before, right?
Yes.
How did that conversation? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you have a decent conversation with him?
Yeah, there wasn't much time, of course. And his, he's kind of like still, believe it or not, broken English.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I mean, super, super cool guy and surreal. And it's the first time I met him just with my wife Shelly, but second time meeting him with my daughter Hope, and with her, of course, being an aspiring filmmaker and her loving his work. That was a real special moment, seeing her like shake his hand. That was pretty profound. But yeah, it was great. Yeah, it's definitely a conversation you'd love to have. But yeah, unfortunately, there wasn't, of course, time to do that.
Right. Well, on your daughter's, you just brought up your daughter, but yeah, everyone needs to check out her latest full-length film. I guess it would be her first full-length feature, I Dare You to Open Your Eyes, which came out a couple years back.
Which at this point isn't even latest. Now she's like, believe it or not, Mood, she's going to be 22, and she did that film in high school.
Yeah.
And she's just like, she's raring to go for the next one. The script is all written, and at this point, I'm sure at some point in the near future, we just moved. So that's been kind of overtaking our lives for a while, but I'm sure there'll be like some type of crowdfunding thing. Mm-hmm. But the script is done, and it'll be a full-length film, and it'll be taking place in the 40s.
Oh, wow.
Oh, shit.
It'll be shot in black and white, too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that.
If you haven't seen her first film, please, everyone, go out there. And it's on YouTube in its entirety right now. So go check it out.
Do you have any more copies of it for sale?
Do not. No more Blu-rays.
No more Blu-rays. Okay. I did do a review of it, so if you guys can look it up on my channel and stuff, it's very impressive. The one thing I was really impressed with the film is like how it was put together was really well done, but you kind of stole the show in the film, to be honest. Like,
you said that. I thank you.
Yeah, your acting was very believable, and I liked the character that you were playing because you played into that so well. It was very believable, and that's hard to do sometimes in these type of movies, but I felt it. It was really good.
I felt the acting in general, I think, for the film has gotten a lot of praise. I think everyone, right. Like we said earlier, those super low budget, in this case, nearly a no budget film.
Right.
The acting is really painful sometimes, but I think, everyone did really good.
Mm-hmm. It's like in Dave's movie, when Dustin Mills, his acting in it, what was the name of the short?
Which one? Halloween Spookies or Slimy Little Bastards?
Slimy Little Bastards. What was the short that Dustin was in?
He's in all of them.
Is he in all of them? Fuck, I can't.
In 3 of the 4.
Is he in?
Yeah, he's in the 3. He's the.
I guess he is actually in multiple.
And then he's the doctor. And he's just basically himself in the last one.
Right. I haven't seen it in a while, but man, Dustin, he's actually a decent actor too, man. Kind of blew me away.
I love Slimy Little Bastards. For the record.
It's really good.
Thanks. I mean, Dustin's good, man. Dustin's one of those guys that can do everything. Like, I think he is. I think he is kind of a genius, to be honest. Like, just one of those people that's super smart. Like, I can't do that shit. Yeah. I can barely tie my shoes. Dustin's like, all right, he's like, here's the camera. He's like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, he's one of those filmmakers that always kind of blew me away for, making indie films and doing something different every time he did a project was always so mind-blowing. Yeah.
Each film was just so different. And yeah, like you just said, it kind of even though I was became a fan of his work with each film, he continued to surprise me, even though I shouldn't have been surprised. You know what I mean?
So is he redoing the Puppet Massacre movie? Is he redoing that one? How's that project going?
I know that there was this online script reading and stuff like that, and Jeremy's in it. He would help with some of the stuff, drew some posters in the background and stuff, and he said that it was hilarious in the reading and everything like that. He actually said something to me to have a small role in it. I don't remember what it was. I haven't got the script yet, but he's not going forward with it yet. It's going to be made though, because it was produced and everything, so it's coming. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, it should be funny. He'll do a great job. I haven't read the script yet.
Yeah, his output has been nuts. Like, that movie came out, 2010? So over like the last 10, 11 years.
First.
Yeah, he's done and to start off your career by doing like a puppet movie is insane. Like that's just a lot of effort and a lot of work, man. It's crazy.
That was probably, he had no idea how fucking hard that was going to be.
Right. Right. Yeah. All right. So last question here. We'll get into a little bit of your collection. What's your favorite piece or edition in your collection? Because I know you got a fantastic collection, and it's organized so beautifully too. I was like,
not anymore. Moods, not anymore. Since we moved, it's just now space is no longer an issue. I mean, you remember the room that I would, shoot this awards and stuff in, a tiny little room, and now we have this like massive basement, which is great, and we just haven't got to yet. So right now, my collection is literally just tons of boxes, just sprawled out over the floor. So nothing is organized anymore. But are you talking about just like a favorite like physical media piece or whatever?
Yeah, anything in there. Collectible. What's your favorite actual like media piece? Box set, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever you have.
Yeah, that's tough. There's a lot. I'm a sucker for all those kind of like deluxe German sets with like comes with a bust and everything.
Right.
Yeah, so many great ones. I don't know if that's probably the toughest question since you're asking like a collector their favorite. They're all my babies, You
have the Maniac bus, right? The one from
that's a great one.
I know I wanted that because I have so many editions of Maniac. It's one of my favorite movies, and that I really wanted that, but for me to import it was going to cost me like I don't even want to. It was ridiculous. It was so crazy expensive. So I was like, I don't know.
It's very heavy too. Yeah, that's definitely a good one, good candidate because I love the film so much, and it's such a cool piece.
I like all those like zombie busts and stuff that you have, like all those Italian things. You got so many little cool like collectible pieces and shit, and it's pretty cool.
You got all the heart boxes too. Those are expensive as shit.
They call them monster boxes, which were just like giant versions of heart boxes, like just ridiculously big, and they came with goodies. And I still love the zombie one. Fulci zombie comes with the like charred piece of wood, and eyeballs, severed eyeballs. So that I guess maybe I'd pick that one as one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Do you have like I know you'll be covering this on your award show, so you don't have to give away your favorite one of the year, but do you have a front runner for like a release of the year so far? I'm sure you
definitely
do.
The one I mentioned earlier, the Christopher Lee, that would definitely be up there.
I figured so, yeah.
But yeah, there's I definitely got to like think about it and look at everything. As you guys know, it's just so much amazing because it's also too, I don't want to just nominate something that's like the most extravagant. It could be as simple, like we said, Kino, just releasing some amazing TV movie. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, the bells and whistles. Yeah,
I'm bad for that, man. I should really start at the beginning of the year writing down everything that's current from the year that I bought. Because I get to the end of the year and I'm like, did this come out this year or last year?
I have no idea either.
I'm so bad with that. I'm like, and I stay pretty current, but I always forget if it came out earlier in the year, if it was like from the previous year. And I'm like, shit, man. It's like, now it's too much homework.
Yeah, so, it's hard to keep track of that.
Right. But yeah, it's definitely one thing I look forward to every year. Are you going to be doing a live stream?
I think I'm going to do that again. It got a cool reaction, and it definitely don't have to deal with all the damn editing, which actually Hope did anyway, so I really can't complain.
Right. I like those because you used to do the skits at the beginning and stuff, like you would have an award show and stuff. I always thought those were fun. But when you did a live stream, like the interaction was really cool, and I thought that was a blast. That was really fun. It was
like hanging out with people, as you guys, that was definitely, it was a cool dynamic. I think I'll at least do it maybe this time again.
Right. So do you have an idea of where you're going to do? Are you going to have your collection set up by then? Before you do the
probably not. I'm gonna have to do some type of makeshift set or something.
Shit, is Vinci gonna be there back?
I hope so. We moved about, I don't know, it's like 2.5 hours away from where we used to live, so it's like far enough to feel like we moved away, but also close enough to go back home. And I'm like still in a band too, so like we go home. I can't call it home anymore. We go back to where we used to live. At least once a month to jam with the band and stuff, so it shouldn't be a problem for him to get out here, and so hopefully.
So where are you located now? Because were you in Niagara Falls or were you in Buffalo before?
I was in Niagara Falls, which is one and the same to some people, but Western New York area, and now we're just about 2.5 hours going, I guess it would be considered southeast. So we're actually only maybe like 4 hours away, 3.5 hours away from New York City now. So just a little more in-state, going towards the East Coast. But.
Yeah, Niagara Falls is just kind of like the greater area of Buffalo, right? It's what, like 20 miles away, something like that?
Away. Yeah, it's very close. So
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. What was the reason for the move? Just a change of jobs, location? Like, what was...
Yeah, it was wanted room, as you guys can attest to. Always need more room.
Yeah.
But we've lived in the city our whole lives, and we kind of were done with that, so we went more rural at this stage in our lives.
Right.
Just so, be able to look outside and see trees instead of, your neighbor's grill.
Yeah,
Mike
man.
Merriman out there grilling all day.
I get
Yeah, I'm a big foliage guy and just woods and stuff in the area that we're in, even though we're still in a neighborhood. But it's just the whole area is just surrounded by mountains and stuff. So it's just my drive to work. I'm actually like smiling, looking around instead of cursing someone at a stoplight.
Right. Yeah, I completely get that. Like, it's where my wife grew up. Like, she grew up in the country and, on lakes and stuff like that, right? So straight wilderness. And I always grew up in a suburb, more on the outskirts of a city and stuff. So I was always around more people. And that's where we live now. We live like more in a suburb, like just out the outside of the city. But yeah, she's always been like, man, we need to go get some, land and eventually move when we're a little bit older and stuff like that. I could see us doing that, but I get it completely. All right.
And more importantly, room for the collection now. So
yeah,
that's number one.
Oh man,
You don't live in a floodplain, do you?
No, luckily not.
Make sure you put your shelves up a little bit just in case.
Luckily, that's a good point, Dave, because luckily the basement is actually like above ground, so it's not a true basement, so no flood worries.
You got a dehumidifier just in case?
I will, yes.
I'm crazy like that. Like,
your head's in the right place, Dave.
Now I still worry about scuffs, though. I'm like, I shouldn't have put the on the show. Then I'm both like, this is dumb.
Do you have a humidity problem, Dave? Do you have a humidity problem, like where you are with your stuff?
Really.
Like, see, I don't. That's one thing I don't have to worry about here is the humidity and stuff where I live. So I don't have to worry about like that getting all moldy and shit like that because I live, in central fucking BC. Like, we just don't have the humidity up here. If I was southern, yeah. But
Ohio is humid to a certain extent, but it's like northern humid. Like I live close to Michigan, but it's still there's a whole line of humidity, and the more south you get, the worse it gets. Like so, that's why I imagine like there's probably a lot of moldy tapes in like the tip of Florida. Yeah,
exactly. Get that humidity and stuff. Like we get rip hot in summers and stuff like that. We get that type of hot. We don't get the humidity type hot. It's like burn your ass hot. So. Which is nice. It's nice because I don't have to worry about the collections and shit like that as much. So
yeah, it's not. We don't get too humid either.
Yeah. That shit's like a collection killer right there, man.
Yeah. Especially for Blu-rays and DVDs would be all right.
Yeah, it's the tapes, man.
VHS are gonna find, and plus VHS. Honestly,
even cassettes,
like DVDs and Blu-rays will die after times. Yeah, like 100 years, bro.
They're pretty durable. They're pretty durable,
VHS
man.
Don't maybe last like 30 years at most, I'd say.
Right. All right, so one quick little last thing we'll do, the 10 and 1. It's just I'll name off two things, you pick one, and we'll move on, and then we'll get into these featured reviews. Cool?
Let's do it.
All right, so question 1, sushi or burgers?
Burgers.
Power metal or new metal?
Moods, you got me on that one. I guess if I had to, I'll go power metal.
Carpenter or Craven?
Carpenter.
Yes. Cars or trucks?
I can never afford a truck, so I'll say cars.
Okay. 70s horror or 80s horror?
70s.
Edgar Allan Poe or Stephen King?
Poe.
Thank you.
Hard boxes? I'm calling them hard boxes. Or box sets?
Still got the love for the hard boxes.
Hoodies or no hoodie?
Hoodie.
Social media or no social media?
I'm getting old. I'm moving to the country. But I love my Instagram, so I got to go social media.
Fulci or Argento?
Argento.
I ask everybody that question all the time because it's just like it's that everlasting argument question, right? Fulci or Argento? And there's the Argento people, and then there's the Fulci people.
Like I mentioned earlier, that like Trinity, mine would be ranked Bava, Argento, and Fulci. But Fulci's tickling Argento's balls really
right,
really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I get the arguments. I really do. You know, even though, like, everybody knows Fulci's my favorite director, but I get the arguments completely.
No disrespect. You know I love Moods.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and absolutely not. And I get why people like Argento more than Fulci, and I get why people don't even like Fulci at all. So it doesn't hurt my feelings.
Richard Lewis over Fulci. I got an argument with that guy. I was so mad. He was so mad at me.
Dude, that was
so mad at me.
That is ridiculous. That's just crazy. But everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? All right, so yeah, that's going to conclude the intro, and you guys ready to talk about some Bava films?
Yes.
All right, so we'll be back.
42 shots.
The word I bring to you today is knowledge reigns supreme. You got no time to joke and play, cause knowledge reigns supreme.
All right, so before we get into the featured reviews here, we're going to do a quick little knowledge. And of course, Mario Bava is our topic for tonight. So we're going to do a quick little top 10 Mario Bava horror films. And this is according to ScreenRant.com. Have not looked at the list yet.
I gotta say one thing real quick.
Yes.
Some people say Mario, some people say Mario. I used to get bitched at all the time when I called Super Mario Brothers, because my grandpa said Mario. And Cameron Mitchell used to call Mario Bava Mario. So I think it's older guys use the term Mario. Or in Italy, it's actually Mario. In America, it's been Americanized as Mario. What do you guys think?
See, you got me thinking, how am I saying it right now?
You say Mario Bava, but I bet when you say Super Mario Brothers, you say Mario.
Mario Bava.
I usually say Mario, and I'm sure that's wrong.
I don't know.
I'm
just
pretty
saying
sure I was saying Mario. I don't know.
He was
Mario
old
Bava.
like my grandpa, and my grandpa said Mario too. So I think it might just be an old guy thing.
I think
Also
I might.
Dario and Dario.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I say Dario.
Whatever. Dario.
Well, it's like Lucio Fulci. I say, like, everyone says his name differently.
Lucio or Lucio, whatever.
Lucio,
Fulci.
Fulci, like Lucio. Man, it's like I've heard them all, man.
No matter what, we say it too slow.
Probably.
Like a lot of times you get into French or Italy, we always just have to enunciate excruciatingly every syllable.
Oh,
you know,
man.
I love Lucio Fulci. You know, Lucio Fulci. You know what I mean?
All of a sudden, we're all from fucking Wisconsin when we say Italian names. You're like, I like that Sergio Martino.
Exactly.
I like that Sergio Totino's Pizzerias.
I had a friend who, unfortunately, no longer with us, but she fluently spoke French, and we would talk about, and I'm going to say it the wrong way, Jean Rollin, and she would say, "What did you just say?" And she said, "Jean Rollin." You know what I mean?
Yeah, Jean Roland. That's the one I actually do right.
It's like sped up, very. We just say things.
I try to say Jean Roland. I think that's how I say it.
They used to fucking get mad at people when they say Jean Roland. It's come on, bro, come on.
But also then speed it up too. It's Jean Roland.
Jean Roland. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's the misconception of Canadians is that we have French backgrounds, but I can't speak a lick of French. So how I'm pronouncing it is just how I'm pronouncing it, man. Like, nobody speaks French in the West, so.
I'm like, Jean Roland.
That's just more the East, right? Eastern Canada.
Yeah, right. In Quebec and stuff, and more Eastern Canada and stuff, it's more prevalent over there. But in the West, no, I mean, we have French programs over here, but you wouldn't it's not just a common thing, right? No one, over here, we don't have signs that have French on them too.
Down south, more even American people know Spanish more than up north. That's probably a very similar thing.
I probably know more Spanish than I do French, to be honest. Spanish
I know more Spanish.
It's an easy language to pick up, man. All the times I've been in Mexico, I'll watch the films, and I'm like, and it's all in Spanish, and I'm just like, okay. Yeah, I'm picking it up.
Spanish and Italian are actually very similar.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of words that just sound like English, too. It's kind of...
Some of those languages are just, hard as... Russian. I'm like, I don't know. Not even going to try.
I always joke about Russians, and they could be saying, I love you, and it just sounds like they want to kill you. It's just... the language is ugly. It's hard. It's a hard, ugly... Yeah, it's weird, man. All right, so top 10 Mario Bava. Yeah, from Wisconsin. Had to overly pronounce
Mario Bava.
Mario. I didn't notice that when I was in Wisconsin. I guess I was too busy eating sausages and cheese or something like that. I didn't notice that.
Made fun of because I'd be like, "It's Super Mario Brothers." I'm like, "What are you saying? Oh, what?" Because my grandpa used
Super
to play
Mario.
to play Super Mario Brothers, and he's like fucking 70 downstairs playing. My grandpa's weird, but it's funny because he wanted to get into it because he's like, I want to check this stuff out, and he'd always be like, God damn it, Dolores, this Super Mario Brothers is cheating me, trying to blame the game for falling off the cliff and shit.
Right. Okay, so coming to number 10. This already
You didn't even let me know like what's going on here.
We're just
Like
doing.
you said top 10. Like what's?
So I just pick a website.
You don't need to let me know what's going on.
You didn't brief me during the commercial break. I was not briefed.
Okay. Well, that's even better actually. Okay, so basically what I do is when I do a top 10 of whatever I'm doing, I'll just pick I'll type it in, and whatever website comes out first that they have a top 10, I'll just lift it off. It's not actually us coming up with our personalized top 10 of Mario Bava films. So yeah, so
nothing is more reputable than Screen Rant.
Yeah, I know, and like some of these websites, it just makes me, and that's what I like about it too, because some of them are just so horribly done.
The Rape Revenge list was so bad that we started predicting it halfway through when we were right every time. And JP was like, "Now watch, number one's going to be Kill Bill," and then it was, and we're like, "That's not a Rape Revenge."
It was so bad, and that's what made that so much fun because these websites are just not overly credible. But coming at number 10, and this already bugs me because they listed it as The Evil Eye.
That's gone.
Already at the alternate title.
Fresh.
Yeah, The Girl Knew Too Much from 1963. So yeah, number 10. Number 9 is The Whip and the Body. Okay. Number 8 is Kill Baby Kill, which I actually just recently rewatched again too.
Too low.
Kill Baby Kill is it's got some creepy fucking moments in it, man.
Oh,
yes. You can just watch that and be like, "Oh, I see where Lucio Fulci and Dario Argento got their entire career from."
Right. Yeah, like, totally. Number 7 is Shock. Interesting. Number 6 is Lisa and the Devil. Okay. Number 5 is Hatchet for the Honeymoon. Oh, I can see where this list is going already. Number 4. What's that?
I was going to say, I think I put Kill Baby Kill higher than all those except maybe Whip in the Body.
Mm-hmm. Number 4, A Bay of Blood. Number 3, Blood and Black Lace is exactly where I knew it was going. Oh, actually, I was completely wrong. Okay, number 2 is Black Sunday. And number 1 is Black Sabbath. I thought number 1 was going to be Black Sunday. And then
the way it was going, it looked that way.
Yep. So there's one that's missing.
Are these horror movies?
Yeah, but I guess they considered The Evil Eye to be in the horror genre and left off Bear and Blood. But I don't know if you guys would change those out if you're just doing a straight horror list, or I don't know.
Well, one reason I always consider, like when I make my debate of why I think he's not just my favorite, but I think he's the greatest horror film director of all time, is his output is no one has the quantity and quality that he does. Craven, Argento, Romero, all those Carpenter, they've had some really nasty duds later in their career, and Mario never had that. Mario, sorry.
Yeah, I
like in my mind, he made 14 horror films, and to me, they're all great.
Yeah, he definitely does have the quality matching the quantity, which is very rare.
Very consistent. Same thing with Cronenberg, but I will say this: Cronenberg's highs, he has a couple highs, but for me, Romero has like 5 10s. I don't think I have 5 10s for Bava or Cronenberg.
Cronenberg has one of the greatest streaks, year by year. He put together a really amazing run of straight films. Like with Mario Bava though, he's got, an amazing filmography of horror films, but he also, being an Italian director, was probably almost forced to do some of the other genre films.
Definitely have 5, 10 Bavas, if not more. But that's subjective.
Right.
That is subjective. But Bava, I'm also not as familiar with Bava as you. That's one thing that people don't take in consideration when they look at a classic movie. They'll be like, I didn't like it very much. It's like, but you should really look back and watch those movies 3 or 4 times, watch it 5 years later, and classic movies.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, your favorite director is somebody that you've had a relationship with almost your entire life, and they grow over time. So it's like you see things other people don't, and they may see things
rewatches
that
are huge
bad
for any
that you
opinion.
don't see. Yeah. So I mean, Bava is consistently one of the best. I never watched one of his movies and thought, geez, that was a turd.
Yeah, that's why I always say it's just the quantity and quality, which I don't think you can name another horror film director that has both those elements.
I would say Cronenberg doesn't really have too many duds. In his
But I
horror
don't
films.
think he's made 14 great horror films though.
No, I don't even think Cronenberg even made 14.
I don't think he
quantity.
made 14 horror films.
No.
Definitely the quality. Absolutely, he didn't have any duds.
Yeah, even
boy.
even Fulci being my favorite director didn't make 14 amazing horror films. But I mean, if you factor in,
Like Dave said, even if you don't consider them amazing, most people would not watch about films. Well, that sucked. You at least thought it was good, and that's an amazing number.
right.
Terrence Fisher probably has 14 good horror films.
Yeah, Terrence Fisher's like, yeah.
I don't know.
And I think he not as high as Bava though, because there's some mediocre ass shit in that Hammer run. Not to be a dick,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
There's some sixes in there for sure.
Yeah.
Very rarely does it ever go below a 6 in a Hammer movie though, to be honest, which is very good.
Yeah, production value is always there.
Not always, but
Well, for the most part,
You're
is.
always going to have at least like solid acting.
Yeah.
I mean, they always gave it their all. Those
Yeah, I mean-
character actors, the consummate character actors.
And Bava was working with nothing. That dude could he's just a master doing everything. So he's a cinematographer too, right?
Yeah,
Right.
he started as a cinematographer, so I think like his films are intrinsically beautiful because of that. And I'm such a, two of my attributes that I love in film is like the cinematography and atmosphere, and he was obviously so great at both those things.
Italian Hammer, all on his own.
Yeah, watching Bava films, man, you can just see where most of the bigger directors just got their styles from, man. Especially when you see Argento films, man, like the lighting scheme.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
you just see that, and you see some of the tracking shots and some of the way the
The blood
atmosphere.
and black lace tracking shot is
Yeah.
like Dario bases like
That's what I'm
everything
saying.
on that.
I just
For the
rewatched.
record, Argento gives him credit. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
even
Oh no,
Fulci
I'm not
didn't
saying he's ripping him
badmouth
off.
Bava.
Yeah,
Even Fulci didn't badmouth Bava, and he badmouthed everybody.
right. He just knew the importance of Bava's the way he made films and how much it influenced the entire Italian filmmaking circuit, man. It really did. I mean, not everyone followed that. I mean, Bruno Mattei definitely didn't follow in those
Did you see the
footsteps.
amazing tracking shot? Does he even have a tracking shot in
No.
any one of his movies?
No,
I don't think there's any tracking in any of his movies.
no.
Who are we talking about?
Bruno Mattei.
Bruno Mattei.
Oh, my-
yeah. No, it's
There's tracking shots in Claudio Fragazzo, I believe. The running scene in Zombie 4, yeah.
right.
Fragazzo's a better director.
Which is kind of funny when you think about that, because Fragazzo was like writing all of Mattei's stuff. It's weird.
He's just writing bad shit for Bruno and then making his
Making better movies himself.
I made the good shit for myself.
That's hilarious. All right. Well, anyways, that's just a quick little, I always find them fun to do. ScreenRant.com's top 10. Agree, disagree. It is what it is. It's not really important. It's just fun to do. But we'll be back here momentarily.
And now, our feature presentation.
Yo, who this?
Yo, Modes, it's your boy, the ill-mannered Funky Child, calling you to remind you that the featured reviews on this episode contain spoilers.
Aw, yeah, man, that's right, brother. Thanks for the heads up, playa. Now go back to being an unproductive asshole.
Fuck you. I tell your listeners to stop being so dumb, silly, sensitive.
Yeah. All right, so getting into the featured reviews here on episode 216, Mario Bava Volume Deuce. All right, so we're going to take it back to some early Bava with a film from 1963 titled The Whip and the Body. And we talked off, or we mentioned off the beginning of the show, Dave, this was a first time watch for you, and I'm sure Tom, you've seen this movie many, many times. I can't imagine that you would be able to put even an approximate number on that.
This was a film I actually picked this year for we have our annual Halloween marathon, and this was my pick this year. And my daughter Hope had never seen it, so I actually had watched it recently. But yeah, I've seen it, of course, many times.
Yeah,
and I'm really surprised that Dave hasn't seen it before.
Yeah, I'm not as well versed in Bava as I should be. This is like going to be one of the times where I'm like on a podcast with two people that like school me in Italian horror for the most part. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to Bava. You guys' knowledge is a lot deeper than mine. Like I see some of the stuff that Tom pulls out on his Instagram, and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't have any idea what the hell that is. Like some of these other Euro horror movies that I have to track down myself.
Right. Do you guys do the Halloween marathon thing? Do you do it in your house? Because didn't you used to rent like a theater or do it somewhere outside of your house before?
We always wanted to do that, but we never did. Yeah, it's always in our home. And this year was weird because unfortunately, like with us moving, you know, we didn't have our usual crew of friends, so it was just the family version. But
right. I
gotta say, before we dig in here, I have a beer here, and I would be remiss if I didn't say Charz to all your listeners.
Oh yeah, Charz to the Charz. Awesome. Drinking nifty man, that's one thing, man. You always, like, your location, you find the coolest, well, you know, craft beers, man. Like the artworks and stuff on those things are just fantastic, man. I can never come across cool looking things like that, man.
It's another thing about where we live now. We're kind of in this area that just has even like just tons of breweries, and
yeah
my beer belly will get bigger now.
I just think it's so cool, like all the horror theme ones, and just the artworks on those things are absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. It's just very, very cool. But it's getting to the point, like even Jeremy sent me a picture just a few days ago. He was in the beer store, and he sent me a picture of the craft beer section, and it was like 100 yards long. He's like, how do you choose, man? I'm like, well, I guess you just have to kind of break it down to what you really like, right? But
and a lot of times it's not good, but
that's
kind of cool. It's like a slipcover, you know?
Right.
You put a pretty picture on a shitty beer, you know, whatever.
Right. And I'm sure that happens a lot too, man. I mean, you got to have those pretty artworks, man. You got to separate yourself from the pack now somehow. Yep. I mean, everybody's got a craft beer, right? So,
do you have a list, like it goes on the list if it's that bad that you never buy that brand again?
I have a good memory, ironically, of what beers alcohol is bad.
Right. Okay, so the whip and the body. It's funny too, because on IMDb here it actually says the whip and the flesh. That's what it's labeled under. I just realized that. That's weird. Must be one of the many alternate names for it, I guess. But I'll do a quick little synopsis. I'll read the synopsis, which they're always hilarious to read off because they're usually wrong. They're always wrong. Like, who writes this shit? But anyways, okay. What the ghost of a sadistic nobleman attempts to rekindle his romance with his terrorized sadomasochistic former lover, who is unwillingly engaged to his brother. It's not completely accurate. The ghost,
or not inaccurate either.
The ghost of a sadistic nobleman attempts to rekindle his romance with his terrorized.
I'm showing my age, but it sounds like some like
masochistic former lover.
Early 90s USA Up All Night, like, you know, softcore.
Yeah, it sounds like a cheese fest.
See, the thing is with the way this thing's worded right now is because, like, you know, I guess I probably should say, you know, this movie's starring Christopher Lee, who plays Kurt. When he shows back up at the castle in the beginning of the film, you know, he's obviously not very well liked for various reasons and stuff, but he's not a ghost. He's not there. He's not trying to rekindle his romance with his, you know, with his former lover. He was flesh.
Spoiling here.
He was flesh. You know what? I'm
What's
gonna
the spoiler rule here.
I'm actually gonna put the spoiler warning before this before the review. So yeah, we can talk freely about this, and I feel like we need to.
Yeah, because he's not a ghost at first, and then you think he's a ghost, but he's not fucking there.
Yeah, and that's where this is kind of misleading. It's like the ghost of a sadistic nobleman. I'm like, well, you know, but. So to give it a little bit more backstory, basically, Christopher Lee plays Kurt Menliff in the film, and he's...
You have to say it right.
Menliff is the worst last name.
Menliff,
Kurt.
yeah.
Menliff is such a bad fucking name.
Kurt. They say it'd be a good drinking game because they say Kurt a lot.
Yeah, Kurt. So he shows back up at the castle after being away for some time, and it's solely because his brother is now engaged to his previous lover, his masochistic lover that he was involved in and stuff like that. But everyone hates him around there because they have this one servant by the name of Georgia, I believe is what her name is. I think that's what her name is. Anyways, she blames...
I love that actress, by the way.
Yeah, she's awesome, man. She blames Kurt for basically making her daughter dead. Some shit went down, and she ultimately committed suicide. And you know, everyone kind of blames Kurt for pushing her over the edge to commit suicide. So he's not very well liked and stuff like that. So all this kind of shit's going down, and we get this insane scene where he actually tracks down his brother's fiance, his ex-lover, and he basically whips the shit out of her, and ultimately kind of forces himself on her and stuff like that. And that kind of leads to Kurt ending up dead. He ends up dead. And now it's kind of a mystery of, more or less who killed him and really what's going on in the film. Tom, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the movie?
I think the thing with this one, and like reading that description, it's kind of silly, but at the same time, it is somewhat accurate. No matter how many times I've seen this film, it still always surprised me that it came out in 1963.
Right. It definitely was ahead of its time for.
Yeah, it's an overtly BDSM film, and
right.
But yet it's done. It's not like in the sleaze factor. So the fact that it's done with such elegance is, I think, really actually remarkable for the time.
That's one thing about Mario Bava, though, man. Like he separates himself from a lot of Italian directors in the fact that like he can do things in a sexualized way, but not go into that sleazy territory where it's like kind of eye rolling and stuff. If you look at his filmography and you look at all these type of movies, there's very, very little nudity in any of these movies. Like
it's still menacing, you know. It's like this is still a true, you know, like I said, BDSM film.
The ideas are there, very prevalent, but he's not. I don't even want to say he's not exploitative, because it is exploitative, but it's not over the line where it's like a Franco, where it's like 30 minutes of just open BJJ, you know? I
feel like this movie has always been it's misunderstood a little bit, for the simple fact that like if you take this movie, if you look at the narrative on the surface, all you see Kurt as this sadistic, you know, kind of like overpowering person that's, you know, pretty much into the sadomasochistic sex and shit like that, and he forces himself upon people and shit like that. But the really interesting aspect of this movie is the fact that the girl, that his former lover, is pretty much into it as much as he is.
Exactly. That's the big facet of the film. That's, I think.
And the reveal at the end too, like shows you know, that it was more than meets the eye. It wasn't just a one-sided thing, which,
because like as you see him whipping her in the first scene, like it's fucking painful and shit like that, but if you're just kind of seeing it for him whipping her, you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of fucking brutal. But then you're looking at it, if you watch her, she's enjoying it, man.
Yeah, it's a stop, don't stop thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of goes through the whole film and stuff. And I think it's very misunderstood that like she is just as much into this as, you know, and it plays out like she, you know, I love Kurt, and like, I only love you, blah, 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 and stuff. Like she's trying to play it off like she really does hate Kurt, because she can't admit to herself the entire movie that she's just as bad as he is.
Right. That's why I think you got to consider it. It's a provocative narrative, you know. It's just not done, as Dave said, so explicitly, but it's just as effective, if not more, to me.
It is, because it makes you think.
The old school way movies, right?
It makes you think. It makes you really do. It makes you really kind of think of this narrative, and it is so ahead of its time. Because I mean, 1963. How many movies had any type of masochistic shit in it?
You know, weren't downright cheap sleaze.
Besides that point, that stuff that's just,
something with production values like this, to do something like this, I think is.
And with stars too, they had stars in it.
Yep. That's why I always forget. Like I'll look at for some reason in my mind, I always consider this film like a 70s film, because that's what it feels like.
It does. Yeah. It does. Yeah.
If you look at the American counterparts at the time, you had Herschel Gordon Lewis movies, and then you look at the Italian counterparts, and you're just like. And I mean, there were some AIP movies were probably the best America had to offer at that time, right? Which is not no slouch, but it wasn't this. It wasn't this at all.
What I always think about though with this film is just, and this is like why I love it so much. Obviously, it's a really beautiful film. It's like I always call it like it's the most blue film. It's literally the colors it's always blue and purple like through the whole film, but it's just oppressively atmospheric to me. It's just so atmospheric. Like this is a great movie to show someone, to kind of like, obviously like Blood and Black Lace would probably be like you'd show someone who's not into Bava maybe about the colors and stuff, but this film is the blue tint and the cinematography matched with that atmosphere, to me is just so Bava.
I'm glad you said that. You said oppressive. And that's the perfect word for it, because when I was watching this movie, sorry about that movie, I just get this idea out because it correlates directly with that. When I was watching this, I saw like the blue and the green, and it was a beautifully shot, and the atmosphere is beautiful, and the howling wind outside by the water. And I thought, this house looks cold. The feeling, the emotion, everything about this house is cold, and I don't want to fucking be here. That's what I thought. I was like, it's a beautiful mansion, but I don't want to be there. Like, I was uncomfortable.
Doesn't that wind literally continue through the whole film? I'm pretty sure.
It does.
I don't think it stops.
No.
Yeah, this movie has like just unrelentless atmospheric. Like even the transition shots. Like I like the shots from the beach up on the castle and stuff. But it's the color. It's the color palette in this movie that really sucks you in, literally, because it's kind of ironic a little bit, because it does have this kind of bluish gray green tinge to it, and it almost comes off feeling warm in vision, but you know that shit ain't warm though. It's cold.
Yep.
It's like a beautiful place. You don't want to be there.
Exactly. It has this kind of like complimentary look and feel to it. It's really hard to explain. Something you almost have to see, but yeah, one of the most.
Not to get too meta here, but it's kind of like when she's, stop, don't stop. Like,
right.
It's a prep. You want to be there, you don't want to be there. And it's kind of like what she's feeling, in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's oh man, and it's got a absolutely beautiful score to the film. The music complements the atmosphere, and I do have to ask, like, what are your guys' thoughts on Kurt's death scene?
Oh, it's pretty graphic for the time.
It's an interestingly shot scene.
Is that that's what the blind, the drapes?
Yeah. Right? Like he goes into that room, and then he's kind of got his back towards the drapes, and then all of a sudden it's like something goes down, but like
they're trying to obscure it for sure.
Completely, because you never see what happens. Like you do, but you don't. I love that scene.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of motive. I mean, it could be the maid. It could be himself. It could be obviously the former lover.
That's what I love about it, because the ambiguity.
The
the ambiguity of the scene is crazy, because it really does open the doors for everybody, because they set it up perfectly, because he's hated by everybody, and obviously, you're thinking Georgia. Like, I mean, she had every motive in the world to make him dead. To kill him.
I think there's also some commentary on just like marriage and fate and like relationship decisions, like because his brother, it shows that he's in love with the maid's the daughter, that they have but it's like they can't do it because they're all the choice has been made for them, and so there's kind of like that element too under.
And there's the element with the father being in love with Luciana Pagazzi,
right?
I'm just
right.
So you kind of.
I'm just making sure nobody knows that's false. That is false narrative. That's not actually in the movie.
No. But I mean, it's an interesting. The narrative unfold itself pretty interesting in this movie, because like once you get the reveal at the end, it does actually make a little bit of sense, because I mean, just based on who dies in the movie, like when the father gets killed and stuff. That's one thing that's always been kind of interesting to me about how he dies, and that his death scene is so bizarre, because it just happens. It just kind of shows up and he's dead and stuff. And what are your guys' thoughts on that whole, like the way that all kind of transpires?
He's old. It wouldn't be that hard to kill. He's ill the whole fucking movie, right? I don't remember if he just died of fright or how did he die in the movie. I can't remember.
I believe
they show it.
No, they don't. That's the thing.
The fireplace opens, right? That's all that happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
they insinuate that Christopher Lee got him as the ghost because Lee knew where it was earlier.
But that's the thing, though. Like, I mean, they insinuate that he possibly could have killed him and stuff. But I mean, if you really do look at, I mean, even though his father wasn't very happy with Kurt, I mean, if you look at it in the long run, I mean, he doesn't really
kill each other.
That's the thing. He's not going to kill his father, right? So if you're paying attention to the movie, you're just like, well, it's got to be, it can't be him and stuff. But I really do like the way this one, like I only have two major problems. This whole movie is fantastic to me. It's got everything I want. It's got a beautiful score. It's got great cinematography. It's got great acting. It's got great set pieces. It's got a really interesting flow to the movie too. I've heard a lot of people say that they love this movie, but they hate this movie at the same time because it's so boring. And I'm like, but the narrative doesn't allow it to move at like Flash Gordon pace. It's supposed to be slow. that's the point of the atmosphere and stuff. It's a build up to what's really happening, right? It's
also like where you place kind of the attributes that we talk about. Like, as someone who loves cinematography and atmosphere, this is just like a buffet.
That's really.
But if someone's not really, and that's the thing with some people with the whole atmosphere argument. To some people, it's considered, boredom, but for other people, it's just like I just lap it up,
Mm-hmm.
This one's got to get better on
that.
multiple viewings too, I imagine.
For sure, yeah.
Oh, for sure. I feel like this is one of those movies that, like, you probably don't soak everything in after one watch. You watch it for a couple of days, especially the ending, right? The ending, because, like, okay, this is what I was kind of alluding to. It's not like I don't like the ending. I think it's beautiful. It's poetic. It's got a lot of things going for it and stuff. But I always had an issue with it being that it kind of turns itself into a tragedy when it doesn't really have to be like that. Because in reality, I mean, if the killer is who it is, her, right? I mean, and then she ends up thinking that she's going to kill Kurt, but then ends up stabbing herself. It turns into this tragedy for myself. And I'm like, man, but if you look at it like, well, she was the one that was doing, like, she killed him and most likely killed the father too. I mean,
she's also mentally ill.
I know you can look at it like that too, but I'm just saying, if she is responsible for 2 murders and stuff, and then the way it's done at the end, it does play itself off as being like a straight tragedy. Considering how they do it too, right? Like, I mean, she's literally hugging the ghost of Kurt.
But she's
like,
sympathetic. She's a sympathetic lead, because in half the movie she's kind of like the protagonist, but at the end she ends up being her own antagonist.
Right. She's trying to fight it through the whole thing. See,
these are the things I never picked up.
Her relationship with Kurt earlier probably damaged her, and they probably were not good for each other.
Right.
I mean, it's really. I like the ending. I mean, it's kind of like the more.
Good. It makes you think.
You also don't know where the supernatural element started or not.
Yes,
you can
was she actually possessed?
Yeah,
she could have been, or maybe the guilt just drove her over the top.
See, like, for me, the things I never thought about years ago watching this movie was the fact that, like, she was into it just as much as Kurt was and stuff. So, like, right there, if you put that notion in as a factor, right? For some reason, that's just the way I am. I'm like, okay, I'm not as sympathetic, because when you, like I said before, when she's being whipped and shit like that, if you're not looking at, like, her enjoying it as much as, she actually was, then you just kind of feel sorry for her. Like, she's the victim here. She's being fucking totally taken advantage of. She's being whipped and against her will and shit like that. But the fact that she's into that shit makes her a little bit less sympathetic in the end. That's why it comes off as being a tragedy.
Trained to be into it.
It could be.
No, and also she's obviously mentally ill if she thinks there's 2 people, or being haunted. I mean, it's a sympathetic killer, right? Like Norman Bates is a sympathetic killer.
But the thing is,
those are the best killers, right?
But the thing is with that, though, because if she's responsible for killing Kurt in the first place, does she go fully insane after the fact of killing Kurt?
Yeah, that's why it's cool about it. You don't really know when, and you can also be into something, but also have shame and regret and guilt for that, whether
that's like sex and religion.
Or not.
Right.
They like having sex, but they're ashamed of it.
Right. Well, and that's her whole angle.
Involved.
That's her whole angle in the movie, man, is because she basically kills Kurt because she can't handle the fact that she likes it more than she fucking should. And she feels ashamed of it. And she feels like if she gets rid of him, then, it kind of ends that whole thing. And then she doesn't have to worry about liking it and being that person that she doesn't want to be. I get that whole thing. And it's funny because those are the things that you don't really notice maybe the first time around watching and stuff. And then And then when you see the ending and you watch the movie a couple more times, like, oh my God, like, she was really liking this shit. Is she supposed to be sympathetic in the end? Or do I feel like she is supposed to be? But do I feel sympathetic towards her, even though, like, she's insane, but she did commit these crimes and she kind of kills herself, so it turns into this tragedy. There's a lot of different ways of looking at it. It's why this movie is not only visually beautiful, but it's very poetic in narrative too.
Yeah, the poetic side of it is, and obviously with poetry, there's layers of interpretation. I think that's what makes it so appealing to me, anyway.
Right. It's a good double feature with Hatchet for the Honeymoon, which shows a different side of a killer.
Right. Yeah.
It was a little less sympathetic, I would say, than this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's very sympathetic at all.
But he's also way more messed up. I think that they're both really fucked up.
But if you've never seen this film and you don't really care, when you kind of roll your eyes when someone talks about atmosphere, this is not for you.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah,
and that's haven't watched. I know this gonna sound shitty, but I don't think you've watched enough movies if you don't like atmosphere.
Yeah,
agreed. But they're definitely out there,
Everybody's different. Some people also fucking suck on their toes to get toe jam out. So
that's true.
Gross. Do not ever.
I'm such a shit talker.
Don't
man.
ever say that again. On how much I have. I'm like, I gag even at the thought of looking at someone's foot. I can't handle anything to do with feet, and you saying that right now is making me gag.
I got foot phobia.
Me too, man.
Do you guys really? I don't.
No,
care
everybody knows.
Either way, actually, I don't care. Feet or feet.
Like my wife will put her feet up like near me or something, and I freak out. It drives me nuts, dude.
You know what
it doesn't
me out. Are those toe socks?
What's a toe sock?
Yeah,
it's a sock that actually like goes around each toe. It's almost like a glove.
Right. It's just like a glove for your foot.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it freaks me out, man.
But I don't really give a shit about feet. Like, I don't like fetish stuff. I'm just like, it is what it is. Most of it, like, I'm not into it, but also it doesn't bother me.
Anyway.
Yeah.
She was crazy, huh? Do you think she was in the feet?
Oh, man.
I don't like that Christopher Lee's not dubbed his own voice in here. That's kind of sad.
Oh, that was the other thing I was going to mention, actually.
It's close enough.
The whole, it's actually kind of ironic because Christopher Lee is actually on record saying that this is his favorite of all the European movies that he did. And it's the only movie that he never voiced himself. And the story is that, he finished the film and he was off doing another project and he couldn't really come back to do it. So he just kind of didn't do it, which he obviously regretted not doing. And that's why I ended up voicing all his other European roles and stuff. But it is, I will admit that's the one downfall to this movie because Christopher Lee has such an amazing voice. It's just so powerful and it's so controlling, and it would have been so perfect for this role to hear his voice considering the character that he played, right? So it's definitely one of those moments where you're like, damn it, it's a missed opportunity. And I know he regrets it because, like you said, it's his favorite movie they ever did in Europe. So kind of a missed opportunity. But
yeah, he was a big Bava fan. Like I saw an interview one time where he just said he loved working with him.
Right.
I hear conflicting things that at first he was very leery about doing the bondage stuff. Like he was like, I don't fucking know. But I don't
see
know.
that.
I don't know if that's 100% true. I mean, I could see it, but then again, you see him in the fucking Wicker Man, and he's like cross-dressing and dancing around. And you're just like, I don't know if Christopher Lee gives a fuck. As like conservative as his attitude is, like when it comes to acting, he gets all into it.
In his defense, though, and I think given the time periods are a little bit different, 1963 doing bondage stuff wasn't.
1973, yeah.
In 1973 was completely different. I mean, we're full-blown sleazebag films by now. Right. I mean, it was it was the norm. But in 1963, I think everything was a little bit more conservative. This was pretty damn racy. I couldn't even imagine watching this movie in 1963 and being like, holy shit, man. Like, what? Like, people probably had never even seen anything like that before.
Unless you were into that, underground shit.
Right. Like, it was so new. And it must have been a little bit disturbing for sure. I can get that. But I mean, Christopher Lee, he's British, more conservative, I guess. So it made a little bit more sense.
Well, he's like a military guy too, so
yeah, it's racy, man. Just doing anything racy for the first time, it's like, yeah. So, but yeah, definitely a missed opportunity. But it doesn't. The more I remember watching this movie and being like, holy Christ, I can't get past the fact that he didn't dub his own voice. Really? Yeah, man, it really bugged me for a long time because Christopher Lee is one of my favorite actors of all time. It's like Christopher Lee, Vincent Price. Like it's like Vincent Price doing a movie and not having his voice. You'd be like, what?
Maybe it doesn't bother me as much because it literally is the only time it happens. So I don't know. Maybe
it's not a really bad voice either. It's not like they got in there and it was like fucking Bruno Mattei dubbing or fucking something like that.
Gilbert Gottfried or something.
Yeah, I think the guy that dubbed him, was he an American guy? I think the voice is American, right? It's like an American accent in there. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
There was no accent.
Yeah. So I think that's the other thing that's a little bit off-putting too. Just if they had a British guy or just something to do in the same kind of realm, but it's coming off as like an American accent. It's weird to me too. I don't know, but
where's this located at? Where's this movie supposed to take place in? It's like kind of a question mark, like Eastern Europe somewhere. But where is it by the water like that?
Yeah.
Like, is that a sea or something? Is that like, I don't know.
I would assume.
My geography shit.
I feel like it's in Italy somewhere. I mean,
but the funeral procession seemed Russian. The guy in the funeral was like Rasputin Jr. or some shit. Yeah, that's Eastern Europe stuff.
Right? Yeah, it could be. Yeah. I never really thought about the location. I just always kind of assumed that the castle and those shots were done. I mean, those transitions, those establishing shots and shit, I think they're probably shot around there, I would assume. But
I don't mean where it's actually shot, but I mean like
where it's actually supposed to be taking place.
Supposed to be, yeah.
Right. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
It's supposed to be vague, I think.
It works for it, though. I think it really does.
There's no problem with it.
No. I mean, that's probably one of the last things I ever think about, too. I was like, where is this actually supposed to be taking place? Well, I'm going to take off a whole mark for not disclosing where it's taking place here. Is this
if you're taking points off of that shit, you're just hating the movie already.
Right.
I don't like that shoe he's wearing. That's not a date.
This has atmosphere -5.
Right.
I believe in the point for the atmosphere. It was good, but atmosphere is stupid. I don't even like atmosphere. I don't even need it to breathe.
I remember one time I watched this movie and I was like reading this review, and it was a period piece. And one of the person's biggest complaints about the film was the costumes weren't exactly proper. Like some of the costumes used were definitely from like a different era, which was newer. So they weren't even out then and stuff. And I was like,
yeah,
okay. I mean, I get it if you're like really, if that's something you want to focus on. I get it when you're doing a period piece. Right. And I was like, okay, this guy's, after reading, I'm like, whatever. He's not a full blown idiot, but it's still a little, it's a big nitpick, kind of thing. So anyways, I'm watching this indie Western horror film years ago, and it was taking place in late 1880s or something like that, or whatever the fuck it was. And there was a scene where a guy's wearing these jeans, and it just like dawned on me. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that they didn't have those prior or around this time. I think they came later. So I like did a quick Google. I'm like, yeah, these Wranglers, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, sure, shit. They weren't even invented for like another 12 years or some shit. I'm like, oh, motherfucker. 4 out of 10.
Yeah. You fell into it.
But it was just one of those. But the movie sucked. It was a horrible.
He was wearing an Adidas shirt.
No, it was an indie film. It was like an indie Western film, and it was a horrible, horrible film. It was really, really bad. Like I think I ended up giving it like a 2 out of 10 or something. But it just kind of made me laugh because I actually thought about that moment where this guy was nitpicking the costumes and stuff, and here I am Googling jeans and shit. Oh yeah, it wasn't until 1886.
Pushing up your glasses and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
There was the one that killed me was the Blitzkrieg 69. I was just like watching it, and like it was World War II, like Nazi fucking death camp movie, and there was like literally a woman like nude with like tattoos all over her body, and I was like, this is supposed to be 1943. What is happening here? And I don't know. I was being nitpicky, like on this exploitation movie that cost $3, probably because it was over an hour and 10 minutes, and it shouldn't be.
What the fuck is that movie? So, what is it, man? I think the RZA's in the movie. And it's like a period piece or some shit. Anyways, his like Wu-Tang tattoo is visible, and it's like completely should not be there. I can't remember what it is now, but I remember someone complaining about that one time. And I was like, oh fuck, whatever. Who cares?
It's like a World War II movie. Somebody's got like a fucking Ghostbusters tattoo.
But that's pretty much what happened, right? Like the Klan shouldn't even have been out then.
But then you have big budget Hollywood movies that are like a period piece, and they forgot to take off the bottle of spring water on one of the tables. It's like,
oh man, that does happen though, man. Definitely, 100%. And that's the main issue with making period pieces, that they're so hard to get 100% accurate because you might fuck up and have something a little bit more modern or whatever. Because people know shit about everything. They're like, no, that China right there wasn't even made until this year. It's like,
Mom, I need more Cheetos.
Right. It's like, oh my God.
They're using Bendy toys from 1994 when it's supposed to be 1990.
Yeah, like something 84 to 1990. So silly. So silly.
Which Bendy toy wasn't made until 91? So which Bendy toy? Oh, you don't know anything.
Why does she have toe socks on?
Right.
I've been jerking off since 2012. This is supposed to be 2000.
I think that's why a lot of these, type period pieces and movies like this and stuff they're left a little bit more. There's ambiguity to when they're set and stuff, because then you can't fuck those little things up that people nitpick at,
Yeah.
It's probably the better way of really doing it, because if all you need to know is that it's set in a different time. It's like you don't need to know the exact year. It doesn't really fucking matter, unless you're doing like something based off a real story or whatever. Getting those years is probably the correct thing to do, but in these cases, man, it is. I love ambiguity in films a lot. Things you got to figure out on your own, and I'm fine with that. So. But should we get into ratings? Tom, we rate on a 10 scale here.
Okay.
If you've never listened to us rate before. So we'll start with you. What is your rating on The Whip in the Body?
I give this one a solid 9.
Okay. Dave.
All right. Well, it had atmosphere. It's a negative. Period piece, not accurate with the clothing.
Yep.
I had no idea where this took place, and that's also a negative.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Georgia was wearing
seriously.
tube socks. She's wearing tube socks.
No, seriously though, if I had to get whipped by somebody, it'd be Christopher Lee. I'm gonna give it 8.5. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, nice.
I'm at the same. I'm at the
okay.
same rating as Tom. 9 out of 10. I'm sticking with my rating. Great film. Really, really great film. So, and yeah, that is going to conclude The Whip in the Body from 1963.
Beware of barren blood.
All right, so continuing along here with the second film from 1972, which is actually a year we did a top 10 on, and I don't remember if this made anyone's list. I actually can't remember. And it is Barren Blood. For as much as people didn't like 72, I thought 72 was a pretty damn good year, to be honest. A lot of good films.
I would have liked it.
It was fun. It's a fun year. All right, so Barren Blood, quick little synopsis. A young man visiting the castle of a murderous ancestor in Austria accidentally brings his dead relative back to life, searching for new victims. I think that's the short synopsis of it. Yeah, the other one is whatever. All right, so Barren Blood. First time watch, Dave. What are your thoughts on this one?
This one is probably my least favorite of the three. Spoiler. This also did not make anyone's top 10. I'm not seeing it there, but I did enjoy it. I did like it. I noticed that all three of Mario Bava's movies that we picked for this one, where I picked, all had one big star in this. This one is Joseph Cotten, which is a classic actor. He's one of these actors that I only really know from popping up in horror movies, even when his career was kind of on the downslope. This one was cool. I like the Hereditary feel, the castle, where the guy's kind of like, Hereditary feel, how he's like, oh, I want to see the old castle, and then they fucking do some bullshit. Like every movie ever does that, right? Where they're like, well, let's just do this, read this paper thing. But no, this one plays more like kind of a proto-slasher than you would expect, you know?
Well, they didn't kind of read it
creeping around the castle.
I think they were just reading it just to have a little bit of fun. They weren't actually reading it like the most cliched stories where let's read the incantation and be like.
Well, he was also interested in his history, right? The family history, and I like that stuff.
He had personal reasons to be into it.
Yeah, exactly. Because he was a straight
the
descendant and he wanted to know more and stuff. But like most of these movies do play over, like we're gonna read this and bring him back for sure. You know, it's like it doesn't really play itself out like that.
They're nonsense. Like even Cemetery and Terror, like we're kidnapping this body and taking it to this location. This is a lot of work for fucking whatever you're doing here. This is nonsense, but it happens in every movie. But I like the impaling them from the castle is fucking a great touch. Reminds me of Vlad the Impaler, and that was very cool.
Yeah.
And I like the look of the creature. I like when he comes back and he's just like bleeding all over the fucking place, and he goes right to the doctor. So it's like it's weird, like supernatural shit, kind of plays somewhat in reality. So it's a good mixture, you know. This one, it's fine. It's cool. It's entertaining. I like that it's in a castle. I like that it's got a nice cast. And it's got Luciano Pagazzi again in here. And the hanging scene's pretty fucking awesome, too. Pretty brutal and memorable.
It's kind of a weird blend. Like when you think about when the reveal happens in this movie and you look back into the film, you're like, what?
Yeah, I don't understand. Did he like change his outfit? What was happening? Was he healing?
No. Like, okay, and it's awesome you brought up that one part where when he first gets brought back and stuff, and he does some shit, and he goes straight to the doctors, right? And it's like, if you think back by the end of the reveal, you're like, or by the end of the movie and the reveal, you're like, well, what the fuck? Like, like it's that's a big stage show right there. But all for what though?
Yeah, because like the blood's constantly flowing. They say barren blood, wherever he goes, the blood flows.
Right.
So he goes like under the door and shit. So I don't know. It's a little strange. This one, like I said, it's the least one that like makes sense to me, I guess I'll say. But also, like I said, it was probably the most approachable for a modern audience, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like Universal monster type vibe to it. Yeah.
I like the torture room. The dungeon room's fucking awesome with all the weapon. He throws a couple people in those devices too.
Let me ask you guys a question. I've always said, this movie definitely plays itself like a proto slasher, just like Dave said. I mean, it's pretty obvious the way it instantly plays itself out. Bob, I guess, was historically known for that, I guess, with Bay of Blood, though, too, right? This one kind of plays off the same way. It does play itself off as being a little bit more supernatural and stuff, and then we get a reveal that kind of denounces that a little bit, but
still very gothic.
But it is very gothic and stuff. I don't know, man. This one right here, I feel like sometimes I kind of wanted it not to go in the direction it did. Like I felt if it stayed in, on the whole supernatural element, I think I probably would enjoy this more. Like I really do like this movie. Like the one thing about this movie, I think that it kind of suffers from, it's a little bit too long. Honestly, the runtime, it does overstay its welcome just a tiny bit, and I think there's
see that for sure.
There's a little bit slower moments. I think that they had to tighten it up a little bit, but I don't really have a problem with the reveal in this film. I just think I always find myself enjoying this movie a little bit more based on the supernatural elements of it, because he looks so damn cool, man. Right? Like that was a pretty damn good costume, and the whole idea of bleeding blood everywhere and shit. And he's just this like relentless killer, like giving no.
So the reveal here. Sorry, I'm confused. Like the whole reveal here, like I'm not remembering correctly. Then was he actually not bearing blood? What the fuck? I don't remember.
He is, but it's like he's not the same character. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, like yes, but did he heal, or was he just like putting on an outfit?
Okay, so
I figured like he healed throughout time and got back to his normal self because there was a curse on him originally, right?
But that's the point. That's the point of the thing that I don't really understand. I've never understood is like, so is he, when he kills, is it healing him even though he's under this curse? Because he's been brought back under the notion that he's being cursed, but he can heal himself by killing. Is that how he becomes the Baron Blood? See, like that's where the supernatural element comes in. Because if you come back as this hideous creature monster and then you're essentially healing yourself by killing, which I don't think is ever mentioned, but I feel like that's where it's probably supposed to be going in the narrative. Do you understand?
Or he's wearing an outfit,
right?
Or he's wearing an outfit as Joseph Cotton, right? Or he's putting a disguise on as Cotton,
right? Yeah,
because I never thought like he was not a monster. Like when he came out, and for a second, the way you were explaining it, I was like, wait, so that Baron Blood was a disguise? Like that doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like he had to be the monster.
Yeah, just like you know what I mean? Like he gets brought back, but then he becomes like so human.
It is a weird.
It becomes so human.
Does he it doesn't make any sense.
Right? It almost seems like he's straight up human at the end, like he was literally put on a costume. But I think what is being implied is that when he comes back and he starts doing his tendencies that he was doing 300 years ago, which was killing people, that is like almost like therapeutic to him, and it heals him into this almost human body.
No, I got it. When the castle is being revived to its original state, starts to put him back to his original state.
So that is contributing, because that's where I was going to next. Because I thought it could be. You know what? You're probably right, because actually when they
revenating the castle, and when he puts the body,
that's a key part in the story there when when he buys it and all that.
Duh. I'm fucking like,
but the
like understanding.
But the problem is with that part of the narrative, in which I've been confused too, is that when he buys the castle, he's in human form. Like he's back to like normal human form. So if he's changing back into the Joseph Cotton that we know by renovating, but he was already in that state before he bought the castle. He didn't even do the renovations yet because he wasn't in the castle yet. We clearly saw him at the auction, in which it was all rigged. Like he bought all the shit, but he was already in that form. Which is to why I always thought the Supernet, like him coming back and killing, was how he got into this normal state.
Yeah.
Not the castle. But the castle does make sense, even though when you look at it from this angle, it doesn't really, because he does make a point of, and I will say that he renovates that castle within like days.
Right.
That's all it takes.
It's kind of funny, actually. But I love the torture chamber, like the dungeon, and the actual aesthetics of this film are fantastic, man. And those bodies hanging out in the front, it's fucking cool, man. Some cool death scenes in this, though. Really good death scenes. But I think the actual narrative is a little bit nonsensical, a little bit. But I like the way it plays out, man. I honestly wish that there was more, because it starts out with a bang. Like he comes back and he starts like proto-slashing people, and killing people in violent ways and shit like that. And then there's a big lull in the middle of the film, though. Right? There's a big lull. Then we get the stuff with the castle and other things that are developing and stuff. And then the third act is really cool too. The third act is actually quite trippy, the way this thing ends up. But I don't know, man. I like this one. I just wish there was a little bit more kills, to be honest, because it starts out like that. You're going to get this an abundance of kills and shit. And I was like, oh yeah, there's only really a couple that they show on screen, but
yeah, the pacing's a bit clunky, but as a massive fan about it, like I'll sound redundant just because you say the same things. You're always going to have like great locations, cinematography. It's going to look amazing. The atmosphere. Yeah, it's definitely not one of my faves of his for sure, but I still love it.
Yeah, I think that, like I said though, I think that this one could have just been, if it was shortened up with a few more on-screen kills, it's not like you have to see all these, these kills that, these people are fucking hanging from. What do you call that anyways? I guess they're impaled on, I don't even know what they're impaled on.
It's just a spike, but it's hung from the castle in a strange way. Like I said, it's just like a weird take on Vlad the Impaler, right?
It is. It totally is. And I like that scene actually when they look up, they're like, man, those bodies
look real.
Those look really real. And I'm like,
and then they zoom in and make sure they go back for like 2 takes. They're like, it's real. And then they're like, it really is real. You're like, I got it. I saw it the first time.
There's that great scene too of him chasing. We haven't mentioned her yet. The lovely LK Summer, who through like the fog and shrouded streets. That's a nice standout scene.
That's probably one of the best scenes in the entire movie. Yeah, I actually have that written down.
I like that they just squeeze in a random murder of like a tramp. Like he kills a doctor, then there's a tramp. It's like, what was the point of killing that guy? Like they barely mention him in passing. Like, and that tramp hasn't come back yet. I can't fucking mention that. It was pointless.
Right.
He kills like 3 or 4 people right away, doesn't he? He kills the doctor, the tramp.
Yeah, it's quick.
Yeah, he goes back and he kills. He hangs the guy and he kills Picazi too. And the what the hell do they call that thing?
That's a great kill.
The spikes and the coffin with the spikes.
Yeah. That thing looks pretty awesome, man. Like slams it down and you're just like, oh shit, man, that's pretty good.
This could have been a franchise if you think about it, because he's got all the weapons he could ever fucking want, and he's gross looking and just constantly dripping blood. I mean, he's a great slasher villain if you think about it. Like wherever he goes, there's a trail of blood. He has endless weapons to use on people, and he has a castle. Could have been cool.
It's very true. Yeah, I mean, if Bava was around when the slasher craze came in '76, kind of thing, and this could have been like a Halloween franchise, man. It really could have.
Baron Blood. Where the fuck's he gonna go though? It's like hitchhiking, just a trail of blood.
Right.
You got it all over my upholstery, you fucking asshole. And he just like puts his head in a fucking vice.
That's how every movie starts up. They conjure him up again somehow, and then the blood starts flowing, and he's back. Right.
There'd be Baron Blood, New York City.
Right. Right.
Yeah. He's renting an apartment, and the guy below is bitching because the blood's just constantly flowing. He's like, I'm trying to. He's like, what is this shit? What's this red paint? I'm renovating this apartment building to make it my old castle.
Right.
I really don't have much to say about this gun one. I'm sorry, guys. Like, it's just not. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's just not as deep as whipping the body.
No, I think you're right. That's why I kind of.
No, it's.
I know there's slasher elements, but I kind of just like just a monster movie, really.
Yeah, monster slasher film, and that's really what it is. I mean, there's a confusing reveal in it, a little bit.
You know what's really dumb? Like, it should be very obvious that Joseph Cotton was Baron Blood, but while watching it, I never even guessed he was Baron Blood. I was like, oh, I guess they can only afford him for half the movie. He shows up in a wheelchair. And I was just like, oh, I forgot he was in this. He's all cheery and shit, smiling, looking like he's from some 50s fucking beach party movie or some shit. Although he wasn't in those, but I'm just saying, he's like, I don't know. So like, I was happy to see him in the movie when he showed up, but I was like, I guess it makes perfect sense that he's Baron Blood, but I just really never took the time to think about it. I just was, you know what I mean?
It does upon thinking back on it, but when you're watching it, because you're thinking this like monster creature and shit like that, you're like, why the fuck would this guy be? When we see Joseph Cotton, he's all human and shit. Looks all normal.
Yeah, and then they have that reveal too. They're like, it's got to be him because he's not attacked. He's the only one that stays in the castle by himself that's not attacked.
But it's that classic reveal where like, when it actually is fully revealed to you, like he starts walking down the stairs and they're all like looking at him like, oh, he's walking.
Oh, yeah. This one's kind of like Scream of the Dream Lover or Demon Lover. If anybody's seen that one from 1970, kind of reminds me of that a bit, where there's like a Jekyll Hyde creature in the castle picking people off.
I can see that.
I can't remember if I watched it.
Did you see that one, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was for 1970. I watched that one. Yeah, that has some similarities. I think this one's better though.
Yeah, it's got all the classic Bava stuff, man. It's got good atmosphere. Locations are fantastic. The acting's really good in it and stuff. It's got when he's Baron Blood creature, man, he looks fantastic. I honestly, I wish I had seen it just a tad bit more because he looks so fucking amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like a crazy looking creature, man. It's nuts.
He's kind of like the better version of the meatball zombies in Nightmare City.
Right.
I know they're not zombies, but I hate when people are like, technically they're infected. Technically eat a dick.
That I always say that. That's my argument with.
Who cares? Who gives a fuck?
I always do that shit, man.
Because the same guy who bitches about the period piece movies.
Yeah. It's like, this movie has atmosphere. That's not a zombie. That's an infected.
Yeah. But I think, but most movies where people have the argument of like zombies and infected and stuff, I think it's like there is movies where they specifically tell you that they're not zombies and that they actually just are infected. And people are like, nah, they're fucking zombies. Like, whatever.
I don't care.
They literally tell you that they're just infected. But
they all fit in the same genre for me.
Yeah, I don't really care.
I mean, like I always said, the only argument that I feel is kind of like a fail-safe when it comes to the zombie versus infected. The zombie, to me, is something that is resurrected from the dead. And an infected quote-unquote zombie or infected person is someone that's living like me and you that get a fucking COVID-19 we're infected.
You technically have to die first, technically.
That's the only argument that I feel is appropriate for that conversation. It's like, what's the fucking movie that we always use as an example? The modern infection.
28 Days Later.
28 Days Later. That's a great example. And that's kind of what started the whole argument is that like people are like, oh, this crazy zombie movie. And I'm like, actually, it's fully a virus movie. It's an infection movie because they state that it's literally a rage virus that makes people go fucking nuts. Like they never died. They're still alive. So that was the only argument. I was like, if you're resurrecting or if you're coming back from the dead, like in Return of the Living Dead, those are zombies.
Yeah, but there's a dozen different kind of zombies.
Right.
You got the voodoo zombies, you got the coming from the grave zombies, you got the Romero zombies, and even Train to Busan, they get bit and they technically die. And then you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you technically die and you come back to life, I think that's pretty fail-safe on the whole zombie argument. Because I feel like if you have a virus and you're still alive, you could probably be cured. Right?
But there's the same thing with vampires. Sometimes the vampires are alive and sometimes they're dead. But they're still vampires.
But are they alive, though?
Yeah. I Am Legend. Half of the vampire. That's the whole story. Half of them are alive and half of them are dead.
That is true. That is true. But then there's different mythologies behind vampires. And
Same thing with zombies.
That's the one thing about vampires that I've always found really interesting is how it's always explored in movies about like certain vampires will laugh at the fact that like you're holding up a cross to me. I'll grab that from you right now and stab you in the eye, you know?
And every movie plays with it too. Like even at The Lost Boys, it's like,
well, the garlic.
Garlic don't work, little buddy.
That's
Try
right.
Holy water.
The garlic. And that's what I love about vampires because the mythology is like whatever you want to make the lore. Right?
That's how I feel
There's
about
no
zombies.
Rules. There's no rules.
That's what I feel about zombies. So when some people are like, they're infected, I'm like, yeah, but if they're mindless and they're violent.
I just feel like if you want to get real technical, if you want to do modern zombies, like the Romero zombies are technically rising from the dead. Like they were dead people that started walking, right? That's kind of the point. There's no actual reason to why they were doing it besides if you use the logic of, well, hell was overflowing and, you know, the dead's got to go somewhere, right?
Or the bacteria from the satellite.
Right, or that, yeah. I mean, you can get,
There's no answer.
There isn't.
I think the more broad, the better, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this Baron Blood was not a zombie, though.
No.
Well, maybe. Was he a ghost or was he a zombie? Or was he cursed?
He definitely had some type of powers, though, because he came back, which is explained because he was supposed to come back and be suffering again.
Yeah, but they tortured him to death for what he did.
But that's the whole thing that's interesting about the film. It's confusing because, like, the fact that he's able to get out of that curse a little bit, right? You know, and go back to like his, you know, his human form.
Is it because they burned it? They burned the curse letter.
Yeah, well, that's why they couldn't get rid of him the easy way.
Yeah, but maybe that's why he got to become human again.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Actually,
we're fucking.
That's actually a good point. What do you think, Tom? Maybe because they did burn it. Maybe because
nice point.
Maybe it did help him come back to human form. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different ways of explaining it, but
we are trying to explain this movie more than it probably, not that it's bad, but probably deserves, right?
It's good.
They didn't think
for sure.
It's decent conversation because a lot of this stuff is open for interpretation completely, right? They kind of roll with what they're doing, and it's not really fully explained, but it's entertaining. I've always been entertained by this movie.
I think entertained is the perfect word for it.
Yeah.
With all his standard traits that fans of him love so much.
Yeah, and like you mentioned before, the scene where she's running through the streets and stuff, and the kind of narrow streets. That's a great scene, man. That's like vintage Mario Bava right there.
I do like the professor too, the guy's uncle. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's probably the best guy in the movie, like the best character overall. The most likable.
All right. Well, I don't really have a whole lot more to say on it. You guys want to add anything before we get into? I mean, we talked about the kills, the oddness of the narrative.
That's right.
Dave, you can go first.
I was at like a 7.5. I'd give this a 7, which is a rating that means I like it. I'd watch it again. It could go up, could go down. So 7. 7's a good rating.
Yep, I'm actually at the exact same rating. I'm sticking with my 7 rating. That's what I had before, I think. Tom?
I get a 7.5.
7.5?
Yep.
Cool. All right, well, that sounds good. All right, so that is going to conclude Baron Blood from 1972.
Hi, I'm Joe Dante. One of my favorite Mario Bava movies is Lisa and the Devil.
All right, so moving into the third and final film here, Mario Bava Volume 2. From 1973, we have Lisa and the Devil. Yes, we're going to be doing the Lisa and the Devil, the original cut, not the revamped AIP version. House of Exorcism.
Is too much of a positive word.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but man, I tell you though, I just remember being like, what the fuck did they do to this movie?
I would say the butchered version.
Yeah, right. And it was solely done just to, bank off of The Exorcist, which was very common in those times. All right, so Lisa and the Devil. Quick synopsis. A tourist spends the night in a derelict Spanish villa, seemingly held in the supernatural grip of an eccentric butler who resembles a depiction of the devil she had seen on an ancient fresco. Okay. Is that the word for wall or painting? I don't know.
Meryl?
This movie's got a pretty interesting cast, man. We got Telly Savalas, who plays Leandro, a.k.a. the devil, which I think is kind of like beyond perfect. I'm a big Telly Savalas fan. I just think it's like perfect casting to me. Just that's a great person to cast as like a devil type person. Elkie Summer.
You gotta
in
have
this
a
one.
heavy for the devil.
Yeah, we got Elkie Summer in this one. Who else is in this film?
Gabrielle Tinty.
Yeah, Gabrielle Tinty, man. This is one of his. I don't know if it's an earlier role, but I know he did like so many Emmanuel films, didn't he?
He was married to Laura Gebser until he died.
That's why I didn't even put the connection together. That completely makes sense.
He died of cancer or something. He died younger than he should have.
Yeah, he was like in his 50s when he died or something like that. But yeah, no, Gabrielle Tinty was in tons. He doesn't really have
liked him.
Me too, man. Me too. He's got that kind of look. I just recently watched him in Endgame. Did you check out Endgame yet?
I've seen Endgame before, the Joe D'Amato movie.
Yeah, it's fun, man.
That's fun. But George Eastman's in that too.
Yeah. With your doppelganger. Yeah, and I actually recently watched him in Women's Prison Massacre too.
Yeah, with Laura Gebser. He's also in Death Occurred Last Night from 1970. He was in Killer Fish. No, he wasn't in Killer Fish. I'm sorry, that was Anthony Steffen.
That's Anthony Steffen. Yeah, but needless to say, he's one of those guys that just pops up in like a ton of Italian films and shit. So he's got a smaller role in this one. He just plays like the chauffeur who basically is fixing a car the entire time before he ultimately ends up dead.
and banging his boss's wife.
Oh yeah, and banging his boss's wife. But so what are you guys' thoughts on Lisa and the Devil? Dave, we'll start with you. Since this first time watch, what were your thoughts on Lisa and the Devil?
I enjoyed it. It was a nice little fun gothic movie. I love Telly Savalas myself, and I liked that he had his trademark sucker.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's confusing. The movie throws you right in, and you're just like, who the fuck's this guy approaching her? And then like it puts her in such a weird situation, and like you don't register everything that's going on until the very end, and you're like, well, kind of spoiler, it's some sort of purgatory. Really, they're fucked right when they're there. They're fucked right when they get to the house, and they may already be. It's one of those things where it's like their faith was sealed, you know what I mean, in that kind of way. I want to mention 2 more cast members. The husband, the rich guy, he's the bad guy in Django, the KKK guy.
Oh, right.
Recognized him right away.
Yeah.
And the mom is actually from Eyes Without a Face and Suspiria and a handful
Alita Valley.
Alita Valley, man.
Very memorable.
She's great.
She just has one of those faces. Like, you can never forget her face. Like, she looks like younger than she is or something. It's weird. I don't know what it is. Something about her look, man.
Oh, she was just in the one I watched called It's Nothing, Mama. It's Just a Game with David Hemmings, which is an excellent movie. I'd recommend that. Mondo put that out. That's a really good movie.
Right.
But yeah, like I was really happy with this one, and just because mostly the reveal at the ending. Like I want to get to the point where she walked out from the house and she had the ball with the kids, and she was like, here, and they're like, no, you're a fucking ghost. You'd get away from me, you ghost. And I was like, well, that's strange. And then when she gets in the plane, she registers she's dead, and I was like, holy fucking shit.
I love the plane scene.
Because the plane scene is essentially
that movie off.
Is the plane scene supposed to be just straight purgatory? Are they stuck in the middle, or
well, they're not escaping for sure.
Yeah, because like I think it's a little bit ambiguous, I think, as to what. But I mean, they're obviously dead. I love the narrative in this movie. I think it's really crazy. It's one of those movies I feel like if you watch once, you probably need to watch again. Right?
Yeah, I could use it again.
Right.
That's the first thing I was gonna say is I've watched this movie so many times, and like even like the most recent time I watched it, it's one of those ones I just love it even more with each viewing.
Right. I feel like I'm the exact same way with this movie too, man. The first time I watched this movie, I was super hella confused, man. I was like, because I'm thinking to myself, going, okay, Telly Savalas obviously somehow wheeled her into this situation and stuff, and like how the dolls play into the whole thing. It's a little bit. They don't really explain it overly too much, but there is a scene in the film where Telly Savalas is explaining a little bit of why he's there and what he's doing when she's passed out, right on the bed or whatever. She's dressed up as Elena, and it's kind of, I don't think it's fully explained, but it has something to do with like the reason why he's doing the doll or making the dolls and stuff. It's like, I don't really know how to put it into words. So
do you think?
It's hard to explain. In my mind, I know what I'm saying, but I can't get the words out right. It's one of those things I have a hard time explaining with this movie, because the dolls represent, it's like the life cycle. So you create, you make these dolls and stuff, and it's representative of their death, and they're kind of forced to like relive their deaths and stuff. It's almost hard to explain.
They're like ghosts, right? They're dolls, but they're ghosts. They must relive the moments over and over again. That's why when they see her, they call her a ghost. I think it's
symbolic to the yeah, it's like almost symbolic. It's like that is what. Yeah, it's really hard to explain. I don't know how to. Do you know how to explain this better, Tom? Like
I don't. And sometimes too, like with Bob, and he's people say this about like he'll throw like not just visuals, but like elements like that into his films just to poke the viewer a little bit. You know what I mean? It could just throw you off a little bit.
Yeah,
and that could be an element of that.
The one thing about this movie is it's always confused me though. I mean, if they arrive at this house, are they supposed to be dead already? Because
I honestly think that I'm thinking while watching it, he is the devil figure,
right?
And each one has already possibly done this, and it's in a loop, or they must commit a sin to lose their soul. And her sin was the husband in the very beginning, that guy she killed. And there must have been a history between them or something. Like, and of course, the wife kills the husband, and I believe the husband killed the chauffeur. So it's just like it all matches up to where like they all kind of made their own fate, right? They made their own beds, and they all kind of end up in hell.
Right. So I think basically him being the devil, he knows that these sins are going to be committed, so they're all brought there, and this is what's happening and stuff. And then the dolls are kind of, you create the dolls, and then that's like symbolic to them having to relive their deaths over and over again and stuff. It's a really strange narrative. It's really, really strange.
It's hard to explain, but obviously the house is haunted because the kids don't want to go near it. And when she comes out with the ball, that part reminded me of The Others. Like the reveal of The Others is mind blowing, and that whole scene it's just like, oh shit! Like, what if you didn't know you were a ghost?
Yeah, because
people are always worried about a ghost haunting you, but what if you were the fucking ghost? That's even scarier.
I always took it like, you know, these people were... See, I've thought about it in different ways. I always thought that, okay, so they had to arrive at this house dead. You know, like we don't get to see what happens, but we get to see their sins from this aspect, right? And then it kind of plays itself out like that. But like I think there's different ways of looking at this though, because
this film perpetuates your own interpretation, which I just love.
Because that's the thing, because when she gets off that bus, like she's with this group of people and stuff, like she's alive. She didn't die between, you know, falling off.
And there's no one later on.
That's what I'm saying. And plus she gets into this car with these people, like she's alive. Like she clearly was alive. Like nothing happened to her between getting off that bus and getting into that car and then ultimately finding themselves at the death house. I mean, what else can you call it? It's almost like the gateway to this time continuum of life and death. Right.
Remember, they show the scene where the clock, you know, the stop.
Okay. I'm glad that you brought that up, Tom. Aren't the clock scenes? And I know, Dave, you could probably relate to this too, because I'm pretty sure you'd remember this movie. But Fulci's House of Clocks, wasn't there so many similarities to that?
Horror movies I haven't seen.
Oh my God, House of Clocks!
No way, really?
I
House
swear,
of Clocks, Sweet House of Horrors, and Touch of Death are the only 3 horror movies from Fulci I've never seen.
I actually love House of Clocks.
Man, House of Clocks is a great made-for-TV movie. Out of the 2, Sweet House of Horrors and House of Clocks, watch House of Clocks.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Blu-rays at this point. You know what I mean? It's been so long. I was holding out for them.
But I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, Fulci, I'm not saying, you know, wasn't influenced, or he probably was influenced, but there's so many scenes with clocks in this movie that I fully... I can just see in House of Clocks, like there's these similar shots and stuff, and I don't know, I just completely
I see similarities to House by the Cemetery too, because House by the Cemetery is almost like a fate, like when you get to the house you're fucked, and it's just a haunted, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that too.
That's why I get triggered, like you know, and I guess you would expect this from me, Moods, to have me come on talking about Bava, but I always feel like, probably to a fault, I'm like pleading my case to say he's like the best, but just his influence. Obviously, the obvious ones are, you know, Argento and the cinematography stuff, but and then he'll get his credit for like Bay of Blood and this, you know, prototype slasher stuff. But just even as you watch his catalog and bringing this stuff up, just what you just said, but also, for example, just like later in the film, there's that great set piece of everyone kind of dead at the table. If you guys remember, at the dinner table.
How many slasher films? How many slasher films?
How many times have you seen that after in like slasher films? Like
Happy Birthday to Me, even Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Happy Birthday to
Me.
You
go through his catalog, you just see all these, whether filmmakers admit it or whatever. But I just don't feel he gets the, you know, the credit he deserves. And as you go through his catalog, you just pick up more and more.
The obsession with dolls too and puppets was definitely a Bava deal.
Yeah, mannequins as well.
A lot of people do it, but I mean, like, I feel like he did it for Maniac for sure. We know that Lustig like Argento, and Argento liked Bava, so, and I'm sure that Lustig loved Bava too.
Yeah, the mannequins throughout all, but there are in so many of Bava's films.
Is it like a universal thing with mannequins and dolls and stuff, that they're just like, everyone's in agreement that they're just creepy as fuck? If you throw mannequins and dolls into, like, especially in a narrative like this, where there is scenes in this film where it does switch back, like the one scene where she's talking to Telly Savalas out in the courtyard or whatever it is, and he's holding the doll, and it's clearly the made up version of it, and then all of a sudden it switches to the real face. Like, that's done on purpose, and it's creepy as shit, man. And it's subtle.
The correlation between models and mannequins, you know, there's nothing there except beauty and the clothes that are on them. You know what I mean? Just a vessel for whatever.
Which is Hatchet for a Honeymoon, obviously, would be a big, you know.
Right.
That's the biggest inspiration for Maniac right there.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. It's
essentially
it's the psychology of it, right? It's the psychology and the dolls and stuff.
But like Dave mentioned earlier, like right from the get-go of this film, when she gets off the bus, she gets kind of like, I'll be right back to her friend, and then it just immediately gets lost, and just right from the start, you're kind of put in this kind of strange world. There's like this like bewitching whimsy to it, you know, and it's just...
So maybe that is the moment. That's what sealed her fate right there, was getting off that vehicle and then being like in the netherworld. You know what I'm saying? It's like she gets off this thing and then she can't find her way back, because there is no way back. She stepped into her fate.
Dream logic, right?
Oh, it's nightmare logic. It's all nightmare logic, man. But she literally steps into her fate.
Those are the nightmares you have too, right? Like getting lost somewhere you're unfamiliar
Oh yeah,
with, and just
those
wandering
always
around
make
like,
me uncomfortable. Just empty streets, and there's no. Obviously, that's been done a million times in horror as well.
oh, who could kill a child? That kind of
man.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Empty streets.
You know
It's
what's
just
one thing we haven't actually mentioned in this film is like the underlining of like necrophilia and shit in this film. It's kind of an interesting undertone because it's not really out in the forefront, obviously, if it's an undertone, but with the character that she supposedly looks like, right?
Yep.
And the body that's in the bed and stuff, and like the body's still there, and he clearly, like, there's this very awkward scene where he drugs her, and he's
trying to like clearly like, you know, dry hump her.
Yeah, well, I think
he starts crying, then laughing, and then he looks at the skeleton next to him. That's a great scene.
Yeah, man, and it's weird. It's like the weirdest odd rape scene of all time, maybe. But it's like implying that like he was doing this with the other body and like that necrophilia thing. It's very strange. It's very strange that they're in there, but
really fucked up. The last podcast guys mentioned that Karla Homolka and Paul Bernardo were actually watching this movie. They rented this one as the movie they referenced when they poisoned knocked out Karla Homolka's sister.
No way.
I'm actually quite surprised that this movie never got fucking banned just because of that shit right there, because they are,
That's what an anecdote. Damn.
But they referenced that as in the podcast last podcast. They said an Exorcist ripoff.
I've never heard that.
That's
and
not
obviously,
the case.
obviously they're pretty big news.
But it was later
around Canada.
But
and
that's
shit
weird,
like that.
isn't it?
Yeah, that is fucking strange.
That's nuts.
I took note of that when they said that. I was like, oh shit, Lisa and the Devil. That's kind of funny. And there's just funny notes like the
finally
movies.
Bava gets credit, right?
Yeah, like the guy in Thin Blue Line, the movie he was watching in the drive-in was Swinging Cheerleaders by Jack Hill, and if it would have been more exciting, he would have stayed and he would have never got hit with that double murder.
Wow.
What he didn't do. So fucking Jack Hill got that guy in trouble. It's just funny.
I'm a sucker for those cheerleader movies, man. Ugh.
Yeah, but no, that's just weird that they were watching Lisa and the Devil.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I did not know that. That's really crazy.
I believe that's the night they did that. They mentioned that. So,
you know, I always find it so intriguing because, like, you know, when you hear these stories of people doing hideous things and stuff and then blaming it on music or movies or shit like that, and then you hear shit like that and you're like, whoa, maybe there really was straight influence from that. I mean, obviously it's not, though, because you don't just go and do shit because you saw it on a movie and stuff like that. They just happen to be watching.
It's in there, you know. It's just if it wasn't going to be that, it was going to be something else.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about how nonsensical like Baron Blood was at times, but this is definitely his most, you know, narrative-wise arbitrary and surreal film. And Dave, definitely give it another watch because I think you'll.
See,
like you enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it the first time, and like it took a while. Like, and then talking about it right now, actually, it's making it go up a little bit more. Like, it's more interesting than you think.
Yeah, there's a lot of different.
And we got to
elements.
mention the location too. That house is amazing, inside and out.
It looks so cool, man. It's so cool.
Which again is a staple for all his films. The locations are just amazing, and also the kills are. They're not really gory, but they're pretty. You know, there's the one. I love when she runs the car over her husband like 5 times.
That's what I love about that scene.
I was going to mention that's such an overkill.
Yeah, literally an overkill. Like she kills him right away, and she runs over the body like 5 times.
Oh, it's great.
It's just so insane.
The one, then she actually gets clubbed pretty violently. They don't really show a lot, but the aftermath, her face is pretty gnarly. And then there's I love when Tully's pushing the guy in the casket and he like cracks his ankles.
Dude,
that's get him in the casket.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite part in the whole. You know what that shit reminds me of, man? It reminds me of. Yeah, I guess I wasn't actually. I was thinking for some odd reason it reminds me of Phantasm. It reminds me of that like weird outer world strength where you know the classic scene where Michael sees. What's
the tall man?
Yeah,
he picks up the coffin,
and he picks up the coffin. That's what it reminded me of, this unworldly like strength and shit like that. And that instantly reminded me. Maybe it's a direct influence to Coscarelli there. I don't know, but I love that scene when he breaks and he's like, "Oh, sorry." Yeah. It throws a little bit dark comedy into the film too, and there's multiple scenes where it's implied that Telly Savalas is the devil and he has a sense of humor. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's so dark. It's way darker than you think it is, but
I just think this film has something for
Well,
for all
okay,
horror
so
fans,
the difference between this movie and Barren Blood when it comes to like logic and, you know, narratives and just understanding narratives and stuff, where Barren Blood, I think, probably could have used some explanation in certain areas just for the viewer and stuff. Because I mean, it made for a good conversation, but we also, there is a lot of things to be desired within that narrative. But when it comes to nightmare logic within films, and I'm talking like Fulci and stuff, because let's face it, Fulci's logic in his films isn't there. Like there's no logic. Like that's called nightmare logic for a reason, and it works. You don't have to explain things away because it's nightmare logic. I feel like that applies perfectly to this. And this is Fulci is a direct result of movies like this right here, where there's a lot of things happening and you can try and decipher what's happening. Like, is this purgatory? Were they already dead? Are they in a time continuum based on their life and death cycle and all this type of thing, which I think a lot of that stuff's happening. But when it comes to nightmare logic, I don't see how you can argue against it and be like, no, you try to make logic out of it and shit like that. It doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like someone can't be like, why didn't they leave? It's like they can't fucking leave. They tried to leave. There's nowhere to go. They're just in a fucking circle. You know what I mean?
Right.
Also, maybe they died in that plane.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's something I thought of like the second, third time I watched it, because like the plane, you could go that way, and then they kind of like.
I just feel like their fates are set, like, because, when she gets off that tour bus thing and then all of a sudden she can't find her way back, I think it was like stepping into that Neverworld. You know what I'm saying? It's like it was already predetermined.
Did she die on the plane to get there?
And then we're just seeing
why right after she gets off, nothing happens because it's all, no one's there. So it's kind of like, there's a lot of different awesome ways you can look at it. Totally.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it, because I don't think there's any right or wrong answers to here at all. I think it just depends on how you look at it, right? But I mean, a lot of people feel like, fate is a real thing. Like you're born with a fate, and maybe this is what these people was. If you believe that shit, I mean, it could be one way of just looking at it too, if you want to really try to decipher it through.
He touches on that a lot in his film, just like with these character traits and stuff, and people being born into certain families, and like, even like Hatchet for a Honeymoon, and then like your parents and all that stuff. I think there's a lot of interesting.
Right. I think it's definitely showcased here, man. It's just done in such an interesting way. But it's a head scratcher, man. It's a really interesting film. I think it's definitely one of the more, just interesting films that he has done. I wouldn't say it's his best film, but it's definitely one of the more interesting in terms of like just thinking about things and just almost overthinking things. I like that about movies because they're fun to talk about in that sense. But it's a beautiful film, though. It really is. And that's one thing. Like, you can throw in these undertones of necrophilia, and the whole movie is actually really damn dark. It's all about just death and, proposed fate.
Yeah, it doesn't have a good stance on humanity.
No,
they all kill each other. They're all cheating, and
everyone's shitty. Everyone's shitty. It's about, this. If you're bad, this is pretty much what's going to happen to you. And we're it's kind of fucked up. That, like, most likable.
These characters particularly bad, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, but one of the more likable, and this is where it kind of confuses me a little bit, because one of the more likable characters in the movie happens to be the devil. Is that saying something about the film in itself? I mean, really, it's just incredible. But like I said, the casting is just outstanding. Telly Savalas fucking kills that role. He's so perfect for it. I love that guy. But great film.
Yeah, I mean, I have no complaints about this one. It was very interesting, and talking about it was even more interesting, and breaking it down a little bit.
Doesn't it really make you want to watch The House of Exorcism now?
No,
just to see what they did. Yeah,
I did want to watch it just to see how they added in the exorcism. I just don't understand how they can incorporate it in there with making it make any sense.
Yeah, you should definitely watch it, but I end up being just pissed off.
It's weird. Like, I haven't watched it in a while. And it's very foggy.
It's been years since I watched it.
Yeah, it's been foggy to me too. But like, I think, I might even get crazy and watch it tonight just for shits and giggles, just to see, because this is so fresh in my mind, and like be like, what the fuck did they do to this, man? But I don't know. But cool film, man. Really cool film.
Did you hear there's a remake coming out of this?
Oh fuck!
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Dustin Ferguson's directing it.
Oh, you're actually being serious? Oh, shut up! No, you're not being serious. Dustin Ferguson?
No.
You fucking did. As soon as you said that name, I was like, shut up. It would be the worst thing ever.
It's gonna be called Amityville Lisa and the Devil.
Yep. I knew it. You almost had me going until you said Ferguson. I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be an Amityville fucking movie for sure.
This would be an interesting remake if you got a good director. I just don't think there's anybody else who can handle this without coming across like cliche and an old hat.
It's gonna be the Amityville House of Exorcism.
It is like, we don't like Lisa and the Devil. We like the House of Exorcism version.
Yeah.
It's not going to be about the devil anymore. It's going to be about... Never mind. I'm not going to go any further.
Oh, man. So good. Good shit, man. Good shit.
You almost gave me a heart attack, Dave.
I do that a lot. I got Duncan once real bad because he's doing all those like Italian. No, he's doing this slasher Italian. Whatever he was doing, he's doing this slasher sets from the '88 films, and he's getting like really burnt out because 90% of the movies aren't slashers. And I was like, oh, they actually announced the new box set coming out, the 50th release. He's like, oh, really? Yeah. I was like it's actually going to be a re-release of the Puppet Master box set as the slasher set. He was so pissed because he believed it. I just love doing that to people. Just bullface lying and then see how far I can get before they get mad.
That's classic. That's classic. Do you guys have anything else, Lisa and the Devil, that you want to...
Who would you guys...
You got to force yourself to stop because we could go on and on.
Yeah. Yeah, I love nightmare, like the hallucination scenes, and that type of stuff is just made for me, man. This one has a good director all the elements.
Do this.
Oh man!
If you had to pick a director,
a modern day director,
I would go with Robert Eggers.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, well, I want to go that way. Bagalana with a fucking budget.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
Trying to cast people. I don't think I can cast anyone in this movie.
Eggers would be fucking... That's a good choice, though, man.
I would trust him at least.
Yeah, he's definitely very competent, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can't think...
Yeah, there's just... Who do you cast as the devil, man? Who do you take over as Telly Savalas' character? Leandro.
That's tough.
Hard to replace. He's just like... I don't know. Something about that
He's
guy.
irreplaceable.
He is, man. He pulls it off so well, man. Oh.
Very possible to replace.
Yeah. Yeah, that scene where he's doing the spiel is so amazing. Such an amazing scene.
I love when he's got the lollipop, too.
Yeah, he hasn't like half the movie has got a fucking lollipop.
I like when he puts the lollipop in the top of one of the mannequin's heads, just for like safekeepings.
Takes it out and puts it back in his mouth.
Those are some of the weirdest scenes to me in this movie is when the face breaks and then he's like blaming it. It's like, oh, it's got to be the glue, and he's fucking gluing it up and shit, and like the way he's doing it, I'm just like, this is creepy as shit, man. It's
bizarre.
It is bizarre. It's very entertaining in like such an odd, like almost awkward way. You're like, what the fuck am I watching? But it's so good.
Not easy to jerk off to.
Definitely not.
No.
Yeah, it's that awkward necrophilia rape scene.
No socks.
Yeah.
I like to kind of match up my climax when the clock stops. Is that weird? Silent.
I don't think that's weird at all. We should all have.
I think it was silent because we totally were in agreement with it. We're like, no, that's not weird at all. It's not weird.
No, I mean,
it's called ambition.
Stops. I got nothing else to say. I'm tired of shit, guys. I don't know if you noticed that.
Well, I mean, I guess I go first on the ratings. I'm going to come in at a 9 out of 10 on this one also. I think it's a really interesting, fantastic movie. Get you thinking in lots of different ways, which is a good thing. So, Tom.
Probably like years ago, or like the first couple times I would have saw it, it would have been lower. But yeah, at this point, it's a solid 9.
Okay. Dave.
I actually was at an 8, but I think I can give this an 8.5 because I think that there's actually probably maybe even more interesting stuff in this than Whipping the Body. And I didn't see all that at first.
Yeah.
Like I saw some of it, but then like when I started talking about it, I was like, I guess I didn't. You know, I didn't even necessarily register the purgatory thing. I registered the ghost thing, that she was definitely dead.
Right.
And a ghost to everyone else. And then it's just really kind of crazy to think. It's a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Kind of hard
Great
to
replay value.
Yeah.
The one thing that really gets my head scratching about this, there is it's kind of implied that like Leandro's character as the devil was like, he was almost like he owed the mom and the son something.
He was in servitude, right?
Yeah, which hence him being the servant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you think about that.
We were all pretty close on all our ratings.
Yeah, very, very close.
Generally.
It honestly doesn't really... I mean, sometimes it happens with me and Dave, but sometimes we're way off, though.
Yeah.
Like, there's been times where we're like, someone's at a 6 and the other person's at like an 8.5 or 9. It happens.
Yeah. And Moods hated the item, and I wasn't on that show, and I loved the item.
Oh, the item, man. Oh, my God. Oh, that one was painful, dude. I don't know if you're having nostalgia for that thing or something, because you said you hadn't seen it in a while, or maybe you just watched it or something.
I've seen that movie a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Grew up with that movie.
Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure, but yeah, I guess that's going to conclude episode 216, Mario Bava Volume 2, Week 3 of Italian Horror Month. Volume 7, man. Doing this for 7 years. Oh, you know what, Tom? Before I thank you for coming on, I wanted to ask you something. And I've always wanted to ask you this, and I just thought of it right now. I always wondered about your nicknames, like the Headbanger and Horrorsball and stuff. I always wanted to know if that comes from the MTV show.
It absolutely does.
From the head. Okay. I always wanted to know that because I used to watch, I remember watching, oh shit, what was the second host name? The first dude was there for like a year or two or something like that, and then there was a second guy, and I always remember those years.
Ricky Ratman? Or?
Yeah, I think was he the third one?
Regis Philbin.
There was quite a few hosts in that show, but I always wondered that because, and it just dawned on me right now, I always wanted to ask you that. But that's cool. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's an actual like physical ball. Like I'll get someone accidentally calling it like horror balls or something like.
Really?
Horror nuts. That's my new.
Yeah.
That's my new.
Yeah, I love that channel, Horror Balls. You know.
Oh, Adam Curry. I had to look it up. Adam Curry. He was the guy. He was the host from 88 from 90. I don't know. I always remember that guy. I don't know, for some reason. He was on from 88 to 90. I don't know. It's crazy. Wasn't even that old. Fuck was I watching this shit for? But it was like MTV, fucking much music, whatever. You were watching that shit as kids, so. But yeah, no, that's interesting because I always wanted to know that. And now it is confirmed. So,
yes, confirmed.
So you're obviously a big fan of the show.
Probably definitely more in the later years when like more of like the grunge started seeping in as opposed to like the hair metal, you know. So when like bands like, you know, my favorite band ever is Soundgarden, and when that kind of like era came in, that was definitely when I was watching. When like Beavis and Butthead was on MTV, that was like my era.
Right. So I wanted to ask you, with your bands, because your previous band was what's it called? When She Wept?
Where She Wept, yeah. And
then the new band's name is, how do you pronounce it?
Sertraline.
That's how you pronounce it. Okay. And so you guys do what type of music? Because I never want to offend someone that's in a metal band because there's like a million types of subgenres. Yeah. Like, do you do
it's
like
movies, you know?
I guess
you'd call it like post black metal, black gaze.
Okay.
Where we basically combine elements of like post rock, shoegaze, and black metal, basically.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because like I've heard
very niche.
Some of the music that you've done, like that had in your videos. I'm assuming that's yours. To me, like I don't know, maybe just that one clip, it kind of sounds like almost like symphonic, like black metal or something like that. Do you guys use a lot of synth and stuff in the music?
So the new one has no synth. Like Where She Wept, definitely keyboard was a huge part. That's what Shelly did in this new band. There's none of that. Shelly actually plays guitar, so we have 3 guitarists in this band. So it's definitely that like wall of sound. Yeah,
that makes more sense. Yeah. I obviously I'd have to check out the new stuff, but I love like symphonic type shit. Like I love synth, man. Yeah. Anything to do with synth is just like so cool to me. So
sertraline, that's a medication for those that don't know. For it's basically a generic Zoloft, which is antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, which I am on and which actually saved my life. Not to get too deep and personal here, but that's
what was the medicine called?
Sertraline.
That's an off-brand Zoloft, you said?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of cool. Sometimes I'll get people who dig our stuff who's like, yeah, I'm on that stuff, and your music actually helps me, so that's kind of what it's all about, really.
That's cool.
That's very interesting, because I had no idea how to pronounce it, so I didn't want to pronounce it, but now I know the meaning behind it, so that's interesting. Yeah, that's good. At least it actually has a meaning.
I mean, they just ask medicines to have like nicknames because they're so fucking hard to say.
Well, what happens is like these pharmaceutical companies, they're just like, oh, Zoloft, and then other ones like, why we can just make the same thing and call it somewhere else, and everyone gets the money.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
right.
You never buy full brand. You always buy the fucking B brand of medicine. You never pay full price.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. I'm gonna have to check that. Check it. Where do you find your music for the people out there that are interested?
We're on Spotify. Bandcamp's a little more of a underground thing, but Bandcamp, Spotify, YouTube.
How do you spell it, just for people to know?
SERTRALINE.
What was the last?
LINE.
I'm just typing it in so I can find it.
There is, for the record, there's a UK band of the same name.
That's the first one I'm seeing.
Yeah. I think they're a little more successful than we are, but they are very different sound-wise. So,
yeah, Bandcamp, man. Do you guys sell physicals on Bandcamp at all?
Yeah, you can get those on there. We're actually also on a small label, actually out in your neck of the woods, Moods. It's called Hypnotic Dirge Records, and they actually released a kind of like a box set edition of like our EPs that we put out together in one. So you can find them on Instagram. And
where's the label located at?
They're in. I'm gonna forget now. It's Western Canada. I just can't remember exactly.
Oh shit! That's
if it's BC or.
It's got it. I mean, it's probably, if it's in Western Canada, it's got to be based out of Vancouver somewhere. Then there's tons of labels out of there. But I could be wrong. It could be somewhere in Alberta too. But interesting. That's really cool. So yeah, that's awesome, man. So yeah, physicals on Bandcamp. Yeah, I shop on Bandcamp all the time because a lot of the stuff that I'm into, I have to order straight through the artist and stuff, right? So, and plus, I would rather support the artist directly because it's a huge part of my life, and I understand what musicians go through to.
Yeah, you have a great collection, so yeah, you know all about that.
Yeah,
Spotify's good if you're just like playing it, but yeah, if you want to like support the artists themselves, go to Bandcamp, and we at least get a cut of that.
Right. Yeah, so make sure you go to Bandcamp and support the artist.
Music on Bandcamp.
Oh, it's awesome. It's
all genres.
It's very easy to use. It's very user friendly and stuff, and you can usually sample stuff and then pick what you want to buy, vinyl CDs, whatever you want. You can do digital; it doesn't matter.
Yep.
But support the artists through there. They do get way better cuts than if they were on a major. So.
Yep, for sure.
But yeah, man. So Tom, thank you for coming on, man. That was really, really fun. I was very happy to get you for Mario Bava because I knew he's your favorite director.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great talking about Bava and stuff, and hopefully we can have you back soon.
Anytime you guys want it down. Hopefully the listeners enjoyed it, and it was just such a pleasure being on with you guys.
It was awesome.
You guys so much.
Hell, man, if you're down for next week, man, you can come on and do some audio for Grasso.
Going from the best to
let's just say a couple shelves down.
A couple shelves down in the collection.
Right. All right, so yeah, maybe we'll see you next week for episode 216, week 4 of Italian Horror Month. And this month always goes by super fast because I spend the whole month. I've already watched I think I'm 30 something deep already Italian films this month. Some stuff I'm just rewatching, other stuff I'm just checking out for the first time. Just some of the newer stuff I got in.
Shit spaghetti by the end of this.
Yeah, man, I love it, man. I really, really love it, man.
Everyone check out Across the River, which is like one of the handful of great modern Italian films, which we were kind of discussing during the break. If anyone's seen it or not, I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but
they also got that one that came out just this year about Classic Horror Stories Italian, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. You guys see it?
I did.
It's not bad.
I actually really enjoyed it. To be honest, it was a lot better than I anticipated going into it. For some reason, the title was a little bit off-putting to me. A Classic Horror Story. I was like, really?
Yeah, I wasn't too big on it too.
Yeah, and then
the title, but the movie itself is pretty good.
Yeah, it was actually really decent for what it was.
Yeah, check it out.
So I did have a really good first time watch this month, and it was An Angel for Satan, the Barbara Steele film I'd never seen before.
That's a great movie.
Oh, nice.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Talk about great release right there again with Severin.
I always wanted to see this movie, and I believe it didn't, even if it did have any releases, they were probably pretty shoddy and stuff. And then Severin I was like, finally, because it was one of I think it might have been Barbara Steele's last Gothic movie that she did. And
I had it on a DVD, which was like pretty much one of those quickly out of print ones. It was on there with a couple of the like Long Haired Death, and I forget the other film that was on there.
Yeah, it was a good watch. Good watch.
I thought it was better than the one we did, Long Hair of Death. Right? I thought it was better than that one.
I love the Long Haired Death, though.
Yeah, same here.
I'm a big fan.
Which did we watch that one? Yeah. We just watched that one. Right?
Yeah, Long Haired Death.
Yeah, I thought Angel of Satan was a little bit better for me.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I mean, I like them both, but
I just think that Angel for Satan had a bigger kind of like superstitious small village type, completely destroyed by this moment. I love that.
Yeah,
right.
And it also almost made me break down the part with the burning down the house. I was like, oh fuck, man, that's dark.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually haven't watched the transfer yet, so maybe I'll do that this week.
It's crazy, man. It looks nuts. Yeah, really good transfer, but all right, so yeah, again, that's going to do it for this episode. Tom, once again, thank you for coming on. Hope to have you
Charz
very, very soon. Dave, thank you for showing up, and fuck JP for not being here.
Yeah, the new Jeremy JP over this motherfucker.
Jeremy Patrick.
Jeremy Patrick's his name.
That was the funniest new poll ever, because Dave has been trying to convince everybody that JP is the new Jeremy on the show.
That's his fucking... I've not been doing that. I just been treating him like that. There's a
No,
difference.
but it was coming across as if you were. That's why I call him Speak in that one intro, man, because that's what we used to call Jeremy. No one caught on to it, man, but...
No, it's because it's fucking at the end of the thing, we thought he was freezing up, but he just couldn't talk for some reason. He's like, the music. It cracked me up.
That's so true. All right, man. I think that's going to do it for the show. And yeah, we'll be back next week with, like we said, Claudio Fragrasso. We mentioned the films, so if you guys want to watch them, check them out. Check you guys later. Deuces.
In the name of Christ, I demand you to speak. Who are you? Where do you come from? Where do you come from? Where do you come from?
From a cunt, you jerk.